Great afternoon to each and every one of us. We hope that you are all in good condition. This is the first day of our capacity building on learning delivery hybrid blended learning brought to us by the Curriculum Implementation Division. For our day one attendance, please scan our QR code or type in the link on the screen. Please always time in before the start of the program. The time in will close at 2 p.m. The number of hours to be reflected in the electronic certificate of participation is a system based generation, so timing in and evaluation are very important. Error or failure to time in and evaluate is irreversible because it is generated in a system based manner. So to our 118 viewers, both in the YouTube unlisted account of DepEd Dasmariñas and of course DepEd Tayo Dasmariñas official Facebook page, welcome to this capacity building on learning delivery hybrid blended learning. Once again, please scan the QR code or type in the link as shown on the screen for our attendance in this day one of capacity building. Ma'am Lay, next slide please. The Curriculum Implementation Division has been working towards the continuous learning delivery since the Department of Education has decided that learning must continue even in the midst of pandemic. The unceasing efforts of the Curriculum Implementation Division are seen and reflected in its commitment to provide comprehensive and responsive programs and projects for all learners across their varied learning needs and capacity, gearing towards the attainment of quality basic education in this contemporary era. It continuously envisions to be part of learners' holistic development by providing essential and lifelong learning and contextualized programs and projects that would enhance their knowledge, skills, and attitude. Today, June 10, 2021, is the first day of the two-day capacity building on learning delivery hybrid blended learning for proficient and highly proficient grade 1 to grade 12 teachers in the City Schools Division of Dasmariñas. We are live streaming at DepEd Dasmariñas YouTube unlisted link and DepEd Tayo Dasmariñas official Facebook page. Let us stand for the singing of the national anthem, after which is an opening prayer and the singing of the Marinas hymn through audiovisual presentation.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Bayang magiliw, pero sa silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titin mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, buweta ng magiting, sa manlulupig, ikapasisiw, sa lagat ng bulok sa siway, sa langit mga nagilagang pula at awit sa paglayang niyaman, ang isang ng watawat ko ikaw ay nanatilig, ang bituin ng talong niya kailan, ang alimat diilig, lupa na parang ating pagsinta, buhay namin sa piling mo. Ang ibigay kanapan ay mga ang pamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to meet together. Please help us to come together to make this institution reflect your kingdom. Breathe life into our ideas and decisions. Help us build a team that has love and respect at its heart. Give us the strength to continue working for your kingdom in this time of pandemic. Lord, come give us the inspiration to be the best we can be. May we be a shining example of your goodness and truth within, wherever we are. Inspire our thoughts, discussions, and ideas, and continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth for the greater glory of you. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Mas malinyas ika'y aming mahal. Ulian kang buyan ng aming buhay. Pag-iisip, iwan karunungan. Sa pag-umog mo'y nasimulan. Ang nakakos ang kinabukasan. Tanggay ko'y iyong kasaysayan. May bonus ng las marinas, ikalalagay kapanisan man. Kapaligiran mo'y saknay ganda, ikas mayaman ani ang pangalan. Las marinas, inubos ng luha, kalayahan ang inalipan. Pagitiran ang mga bayani, sa maglaban sa hangin. Ay pagkus ng las marinas, ipananangay kapanisan man. Ay pagkus ng las marinas, ipananangay kapanisan
We hope and pray once again that we are all in good condition despite the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic. Right now, we are gearing towards the end of school year 2020-2021, and we have a lot of paperwork aside from our responsibilities at home. Nandyan na rin ang preparation natin sa LDM portfolio, TrueLac or Learning Action Cell, SMEA, preparation, SBM, checking of forms, pangangamusta sa mga batang nasa ODL o MDL patungkol sa kanilang mga submissions ng outputs, lalo na sa mga batang ngayon lang nagpaparamdam o walang paramdam. At ang paghahanda na rin natin sa posibilidad na magkaroon ng blended approach sa paraan ng pagtuturo at pagkatuto. We want to hear from you. please type kayang-kaya kung talagang kayang-kaya natin ang mga pangyayari dito ngayon sa atin. At please type kung kinakaya at kung bakit kinakaya or kakayanin. Please type in and we will read some of your comments a little later. For our day one attendance, please scan the QR code or type in the link on the screen. Always time in before the start of the program. And sabi ng ating HRTD, the time in will close at 2 p.m. The number of hours to be reflected in the electronic certificate of participation is a system-based generation. So timing in and evaluation are very important. Error or failure to time in and evaluate is irreversible. Ayan, basahin natin yung sinabi naman ni Ma'am Len Redilla Lopez, kinakaya para sa mga batang Dasmariñeño. Wow, ang ganda naman nun. Ang sabi sa atin ni Ma'am Len Rendilla Lopez. Ang sabi naman ni Ma'am Christine de la Cruz, sorry, kailangan pong kayanin. Ayan. Si Ma'am Luz naman, Mohika, kakayanin with exclamation. Talaga namang kakayanin. Sinasabi naman ni Ma'am Arlene Celia, kinakaya po. Ang sabi naman po ng SMES Kinder TV, kakayanin para sa bata. O ha? Sabi naman ni Sir Argel Repuya, kinakaya, mahirap pero mas matibay at mas malaki ang pagmamahal namin sa bata. Wow, ang sarap naman nun, ano? Para sa bata, para sa bayan. Ma'am Rita Dimara said, kinakaya at kakayanin pa. Sabi naman ni Ma'am Abby, kakayanin po para sa mga bata. Wow! Virtual hug para po sa ating lahat. Sabi naman ni Ma'am Mel, kakayanin. At syempre, sabi ni Ma'am Maylene, kinakaya po para sa bata, para sa bayan. So alinman sa tatlo, kinakaya, kakayanin, o, o sabi nga natin kanina, para sa bata, para sa bayan, talagang ginagawa natin at talagang ating kayang-kaya o kinakaya o kakayanin, ang magic word ay ang salitang kaya. Kaya naman po sa ating mga kasamahang guro na nasa 429 na pong viewers ngayon sa ating platform, isang mapagpalang hapon po sa ating lahat. And to welcome us virtually, let us call in from the office of the Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, our dear ASDS, Bernadette Luna, for the welcome remarks.
Hello.
Hi ma'am, magandang hapon po.
Am I being heard, Jeff?
Yes ma'am, you are heard na po.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Well, of course, my greetings to our OIC SDS, Sir Nong Cantonhos, to the Chief of the CID, Ma'am Gemma Cortez, to the Chief of the SGOD, Sir Manny Resurrection, and to the CID family, the EPS, the PSDSS, and to the school heads, to the teachers, to all the participants of this afternoon's activity, which is the hybrid learning modality, which I think is very timely because this is a sort of an advanced preparation. That's why the CSD o DASMA decided to have this orientation because we are preempting the possibility of allowing the DepEd, allowing the face-to-face learning delivery mode by the DepEd, considering that the vaccination program of the government has reached almost 50%, ano po, patapos na. And the target is by September or October ay matapos po, ma-reach natin yung herd immunization na sinasabi, na tinatawag nila, that all all concerned people or majority, no, of the populace will be vaccinated. In fact, I heard last night from the news that in America, the vaccination for children ages 12 to 15 is already allowed. Yung Pfizer po ang ibinabakuna sa mga batang ito. And there was a pediatrician who suggested na why not, kumbaga, let's start opening our mind to that kind of program. But the government is still um, thinking at pinag-iisipan pa ng mabuti kung mababakunahan nga ang isasali na sa pagbabakuna ang mga batang edad ay 12 hanggang 15 taong gulang. So, well, anyway, the hybrid delivery mode or hybrid learning delivery mode is a combination of face-to-face and virtual or online. It is done simultaneously. So, ang isang teacher ay magtuturo ng merong limited na bilang ng mga bata sa kanyang harapan, so face-to-face nga. And the rest of the class ay naka-online or virtual. So, to orient us more and to learn about of this hybrid learning, what really hybrid learning is all about, I'm sure that we have invited, with the expertise of our invited resource speaker, si Sir Ricky Aguirre and our very own Sir Noel Anciano. I'm sure that this afternoon, this is gonna be another learning experience to all of us, at madadagdagan na naman po ang ating kaalaman. Sabi nga kanina ni Sir Jeff, ay kailangan nating kayanin o kinakaya at kakayanin. And I am very glad with the response, no, of the teachers, na yung iba nagsabi ay kinaya na nga nila, kinakaya nila, kaya kakayanin nila. So thank you very much for that very positive outlook. Thank you for being so responsive to all the programs and projects of our department. Kasi nga, para sa mga batang Dasmariñeño, kaya tayo nagpapakahirap ng ganito. That's why we look into different approaches. We want to make sure na lahat ng bata ay walang maiiwan, lahat ng bata matututo, at lahat ng bata ay hindi titigil sa kanilang pag-aaral. Kahit ilang pang pandemya ang dumating, tuloy at tuloy ang ating edukasyon. So, happy learning everyone. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the afternoon. Thank you very much. God bless. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you very much to our very positive and very light ASDS Ma'am Bernadette Luna. And to inspire us all prior to the unpacking of learning in this capacity building for hybrid blended modality, let us call in from the Office of the Schools Division Superintendent our very able officer in charge, Sir Raimundo M. Cantonhos, CESO 6. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Jeff. Good afternoon, everyone. To my CSDO family, greetings to ASDS Badet, Ma'am Gemma, Sir Manny, and to all the personnel in CSDO Dasmariñas City. To our participants, and of course, my appreciation and thanks to our resource person for today, Brother Ricky Aguirre. Thank you very much, sir. Okay. Umuulan at kumikidlat. It's okay. For this activity, and to all the participants and to all the members of DepEd Dasmariñas, Um, this pandemic has brought us many things. This pandemic gave us many challenges and sacrifices in the education sector, especially in the delivery of public education to our learners. But I'd like you to remember this in whatever endeavor that we are into and to the future activities and challenges ahead of us that we will be dealing to, we will be responding to. Uh, of course, the activity, the hybrid learning, blended learning, is really a preparation for a more challenging and more complex because it's a combination of face-to-face, as sinabi na ni SDS Badet kanina. But I'd like to share this anecdote that happened to me sometime in my CES journey. Uh, when the executive director of the CES board, the former director, Antoinette, asked me, uh, what is public service for me? Or what is your definition being in the third level or being in the Department of Education? And without, in a split second, I answered self-satisfaction. At first, at first, the director took it negatively because akala niya being in the DepEd, being in the third level, being a teacher, ay to satisfy only myself. But I qualified it. Sabi ko, ma'am, a director, I said, self-satisfaction that I was able to render and deliver the mandate and more than the mandate that are in me. So my dear brothers and sisters in DepEd Dasmariñas, especially to our teachers and school heads who are in the front line in the delivery of instruction in the schools, please remember this always. This pandemic is a history. For sure, this will be recorded well in the history. And the different challenges that we've been and the challenges that we'll be going through ahead of us are challenges. And please be very proud of yourselves and ourselves that during this challenging and difficult time, we were able to deliver our mandate and our selfless service to our learners and to our fellow teachers and to our fellow DepEd personnel employees in the Department of Education. I want you to feel and claim that satisfaction, the satisfaction that despite the many challenges, you are part on the process of giving solution. You were part of the process in giving your extra time, in risking your lives, in giving up your resources, your time, your finances, and everything from you, all for the delivery of education for our learners and for building this nation. And with that, as we continue to claim that with ourselves, we will not be weary and hindi tayo panghihinaan at tayo ay mananatiling malakas, tayo ay mananatiling strong, na susuungin natin ang iba pang mga challenges na ating haharapin until our retirement and thereafter. Thank you very much and congratulations for this activity. Mag-ingat po tayo palagi. Thank you very much and good afternoon.
Thank you very much to our officer in charge of the City Schools Division of Dasmariñas, Sir Nong Cantonhos. And to acknowledge the participants in this activity, Dr. Frageline B. Rafael, the charming education program supervisor, will do the favor. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Doc Chef. I like the adjective. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, a great afternoon to all. Welcome aboard to grade 1 to grade 12 proficient and highly proficient t-shirt. teachers. B, relearn and be happy on capacity building on hybrid learning. Vis-à-vis assessment across modalities. Okay. I will read your school for checking of attendance. You can type your name and school to be acknowledged. And don't forget to put hashtag hybrid learning. So let's start the ball rolling. Let's have the teacher from cluster 1, Dasmariñas Elementary School. Doc Jeff, pwede ba tayong sabayan mo ko habang nag-check ako na attendance? You
Sure,
can
ma'am.
acknowledge also our participants. Siyempre, hindi namin kita yung nasa Facebook or YouTube. Right po ba, Doc Jeff?
Sure, ma'am. Opo.
Para ma-acknowledge natin, ma-inspire yung ating mga teacher pag narinig yung kanilang school. Ayan, may
Hashtag.
sumunod na. Okay.
Opo. Ang hashtag
hybrid learning.
learning. Hashtag
Okay.
hybrid learning.
So let's start from Dasmariñas Elementary School.
Kasama
Next.
po natin RB Green Vlog. Math is fun. Ayan.
Okay, thank
Kasama
you.
din natin. Ayan.
Let's have the Francisco Ibarzaga Memorial School. Let's have the teachers from Sabang Elementary School. May nakikita na rin ako, Doc Jeff, no? Let's have Senaida H. Ganya Memorial School. And for Cluster 1, Francisco R. Barzaga Integrated High School. Doc Jeff, tama ba ako? All school were well presented ng Cluster 1 po natin.
At talagang sunod-sunod po ang pagpasok ng hashtag hybrid learning.
Okay, so let's move on. Let's have Cluster 2, Humayaw Elementary School. Naandyan din na po ba ang Langkaan Elementary School? Siyempre, hindi magpapatalo ang Vicente P. Villanueva Memorial School. At ang bago nating anak na school, ang Edilberto S. Legazpi Integrated High School. And for Cluster 2, let's have Langkaan 2 National High School. Doc Chep, kung gano'ng ka-active ang Cluster 1, ganun din ang Cluster 2, no?
Yes, ma'am. At talagang bumabaha na ng hashtag hybrid learning kasabay ng pag-ulan ngayong hapon.
Hindi nga sasabihin ko, Doc Chep, kasabay ng malakas na pagbuhos ng ulan. So it is a good sign, Doc Chep, na talagang maulan, mabiyaya, masabaw ang pagkatuto natin sa araw na ito. Tama po ba ako, Doc Jeff?
Yes, ma'am. Agree.
Okay.
Isang malaking check ng red ball pen.
Isang malaking check na red ball pen. So let's move on for Cluster 3. Let's have Dalpin J. Haranilla Elementary School. Malinta Elementary School. Nandyan po ba kayo? Siyempre, hindi din patatalo ang New Era Elementary School. Kasama din nila ang New Era National High School at ang kanilang pinaka-senior, siyempre, ang New Era Senior High School. Sunod-sunod, no, Doc Chep, ang ating
Yes,
attendance. Okay, thank you so much. So let's move on Cluster 4. Doc Chep, okay lang ba hindi ko na-acknowledge ang ating mga PSDS o you would like also to acknowledge po? Baka acknowledge ko po ang PSDS ng ating Cluster 1. Siyempre yung pogi, sabi niyo sa akin kanina magandang adjective. So the handsome and gorgeous PSDS ng Cluster 1. Let's have Dr. Joni Jeff I. Marquez and also the handsome and cute na PSDS ng Cluster 2, we have Dr. John G. Nepomuceno, kung kanina handsome, beautiful, Dr. Adoracion I. De Los Santos for Cluster 3, and for Cluster 4, syempre, the gorgeous, the dark and handsome, and single PSDS of Cluster 4, Dr. Disaldo A. Bellas. Okay, so let's move on for the Cluster 5. We acknowledge also the singer, the Nightingale PSDS of Cluster 5. Let's have Dr. Emily L. Belaño, Moms Ems. So let's have the Dasmariñas 2 Central School. How about the San Miguel Elementary School? Then let's have the Sultan Ismail Elementary School. How about the Victoria Elementary School? And we have the Dasmariñas Integrated High School. Katuwa naman yung hashtag ni Ma'am Belaño, hashtag Belaño from Cluster 4.
Hybrid Belaño.
Yes. Nightingale, di ba? Ang singer natin. Okay. So, present din po, complete din po ang Cluster 5. Siyempre, hindi pa tatalo ang Cluster 6. Let's have the pioneer, the mother, okay, of all PSDS. Yan. The loving mother of Cluster 6. Let's have Ma'am Telma Bubueno. Yan. Good afternoon, Ma'am Telma. Let's go on. Di ba? Nauna na kagad ang Dr. Jose P. Rizal Elementary School. Good afternoon. How about the Salitran Elementary School? Nandito rin po ba ang Dasmariñas North National High School? And last but not least, Dr. Jose P. Rizal Senior High School. Yan. Doc Jeff, umaapaw ang ating mga participants, na?
Yes, ma'am. Opo.
Okay.
At talagang nagpapakita ng kanilang interest sa ating pong capacity building.
Oo, kaya nga natuwa ako doon sa mga naging sagot ng mga teacher natin, no? Hashtag kakayanin, kaya para sa bayan. Tingnan mo talaga yung puso ng ating mga guro ay talagang hindi natin masusukat ang kanilang pagmamahal. Sabi nga, sa anong sitwasyon na natiling nakatayo lagi ang mga guro. Kaya saludo kami sa inyo. Okay, hanapin na natin ang ating mga kasama sa Cluster 7. Sa kanilang, ito pa, very humble and handsome PSDS of Cluster 7. Let's have Mr. Vic B. Villador. Good afternoon, Sir Vic. Naandito na rin po ba ang mga taga-Paliparan Elementary School? Yan. Thank you, Sir Vic. How about the Salawag Elementary School? Hindi pa tatalo ang Piela Elementary School. Susundan dito na masigla at masigasig na Paliparan 2 Integrated High School. And last, the Salawag National High School. Doc Jeff, natutuwa ako. Sumasabay yung ngayon yung pumapasok na feedback pag tinatawag ko ang kanilang school. No, Doc Jeff? Ibig sabihin, hindi ako na-delay ngayon. Okay.
Hindi, ma'am, hindi.
Masaya ako at stable ang aking net sa araw na ito. Let's move on for Cluster 7. The one and only, talaga namang artistahin ng mga PSDS. I don't know what is the right adjective for this, pero talagang lagi siyang the clean, the gorgeous, and the handsome PSDS of Cluster 7. Let's have Dr. Jessie A. Layugan. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, ma'am. From Cluster 8, Dr. Jessie Layugan. Yes.
Okay, let's call in Bautista Elementary School. How about the Santa Cruz Elementary School? Another big school for Cluster 8. Let's have the San Nicolas Elementary School. Thank you, Ma'am Rawi. Pati ang kanilang parent supervisor ng Cluster 7. Thank you. Good afternoon, Ma'am Rawi. Let's have the Paliparan National High School. And the Paliparan 3 Senior High School. Grabe, ang cute ng pangalan, no? Airport 3
Airport 3. Nakakatuwa.
Thank you, Ma'am Elsa. Talagang, napaka-active din at talaga din, nakukuha ding magpatawa din ng ating mga guro, no? Hindi na pala sila guro, artistahin at mga comedian na rin. Thank you, Airport 3 Elementary School. Yes. Thank you, sir. And Ernani LF, happy Thursday, happy learning, and be happy. Thank you so much. And of course, the last but not the least na cluster natin, pero hindi rin patatalo ito. The hands, talaga parang mali yata yung mga adjective ko, pero talaga man ang lahat kayo handsome, no? The handsome, and the low profile father ng cluster 9. Let's have the PSDS. Please welcome Mr. Michael M. De Guzman. Good afternoon, Sir Mike. Yan. Ang dati kong partner. Yan. So let's have, nandito po ba ang Paliparan 3 Elementary School? Yan. May humahabol. Welcome daw sa kanilang PSDS, Dr. Janet Pumeseno. How about the teachers from Pintong Gubat Elementary School? Are you in? Paliparan? Pintong Gubat? Oh, yun. Thank you so much. How about the Santa Cristina Elementary School? Let's have the Dasmariñas East Integrated High School. And to close the checking of attendance, sabay-sabay at bonggang-bonggang palakpakan para sa Pag-asa National High School. Yan. Doc Chep, alam mo na this, okay? All teachers, all PSDS, and all our principals are well presented to attain or to be present in this kind of training or seminar. So, Doc Chap, good day and God bless.
Thank you so much. Very good and very active presentation of participants by our education program supervisor, Ma'am Fraj Rafael. And to give us the statement of purpose and the program flow, ladies and gentlemen, one of the proponents of this capacity building, the education program supervisor of Araling Panlipunan, Sir Alejo S. Filio Jr. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Doc Jeff. No, pero before I will proceed to the statement of the purpose, Sir Jeff, Doc Jeff, sasamantalahin ko ang pagkakataon. Maaring hindi lang ito. Medyo hindi nakalimutan lang ng ating binibining kapatid, no? Special mention din sa ating mga schools under Cluster 4, no? Babanggitin natin, babawiin ko ang Borol Elementary School. Special mention sa mga taga Sampaloc ES, sa mga taga Ramona Estirona Memorial School, Dasma West National High School, and then Congressional Integrated High School. Okay lang ba, Doc Jeff?
Sure, kayo pa ba?
So good afternoon, everyone. At isang maulan ngunit makasaysayang araw sa ating lahat. Allow me to present and read the statement of the purpose and the flow of the program of this training. Sir Jeff? Okay. For the statement of the purpose, yan. Okay. So again, once again, allow me to read. No, this training was conceptualized with the idea that learning shall continue despite pandemic, as mentioned before. No, and as the education landscape changes, DepEd Dasmariñas keeps abreast with these changes, and which one of these is the possible adoption of a limited face-to-face as one of the modalities this coming school year 2021-2022. Moreover, the results of ESAT for school year 2019-2020 and the application of indicators to be rated in classroom observations relative to DepEd Memorandum PHROD 2021-00110 titled Guidelines on the Implementation of the RPMS for School Year 2020-21 were also considered in this training. And this activity aims to, from the enabling objectives, first, enhance knowledge, skills, and competence of teachers in the implementation of hybrid or blended learning and apply COT indicators in this modality. And second, provide informative learning in developing items for assessment in different learning modalities. And this training, we have for the expected outputs, enhance teachers' knowledge, skills, and competence in the implementation of hybrid or blended learning and the application of 3 indicators during classroom observation, and that is for the part of teachers. And for the expected outcomes, increased academic performance for learners in distance education as reflected in their quarterly grades. And for the program flow, for the day 1, from 1 to 3, we have the opening program as we did, no? Ito na ngayon. And after that, after the opening program, we will immediately proceed to the session 1 concerning hybrid learning as alternative classroom teaching approach, vis-à-vis alternative classroom observation, to be delivered by Brother Roderick Motril Aguirre. And perhaps marami ang nakakaalam, no? Tungkol at nakakakilala na sa ating speaker in that particular session. And that is from 1 to 3, and perhaps magkakaroon, depende siguro sa ating facilitator later on, kung magkakaroon or bibigyan tayo ng pagkakataon, no, na magkaroon ng break. And pero yun ay it will continue until 4:30 this afternoon. And then after that, we will proceed to the open forum from 4:30 to 5 p.m. probably. And for the day 2, we will start again at 1 p.m. for the preliminaries, no, until 1:15, and then to be followed by session 2 to be delivered by Sir Noel, the EPS of English, Noel Ansiado, no, concerning on review of interim guidelines for assessment and grading in light of the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan, followed by test development and validation process from 3 to 4:30. And we will close at exactly 4:30 and probably will end until 5 o'clock. Thank you very much. Kayang-kaya, kinakaya at kakayanin pa, Sir Jeff.
All right. Thank you so much to our very humble and, of course, very supportive education program supervisor, Sir Jojo Filio. And to introduce to us the person who has the special task this afternoon in dissecting the topic for session 1, let us have the full of wit and grit education program supervisor, Mr. Antonio Faustino Jr. Hi, sir. Good afternoon po.
Hello, Doc Jeff. Good afternoon. Yes,
Good
great
afternoon,
day,
sir.
everyone. Good afternoon, Doc Jeff. Yes, a great day, everyone. A blessed day to all our viewers, especially to the top management, of course, of DepEd Dasmariñas, to our Schools Division Superintendent, Sir Raimundo Cantonhos, our ASDS, Ma'am Bernadette Luna, to the two chiefs, Sir Manny and Ma'am Jem, of course, to my fellow educators, pleasant day. We are blessed for having a speaker who is an expert in his field and that being our partner in sharpening minds and shaping our learners' dreams. I won't be reading a 13-page information, but in condense, our speaker worked as a college professor for both undergraduate and graduate levels at Philippine Normal University, focused on module development, student research, and extension programs from 2004 to 2009. Then he became the editor-in-chief of Aklat Dunong Publishing from 2009 to 2011, where he was tasked to benchmark instructional materials in and from Singapore and contextualize it to the Philippines setting. After that, he was taken in by the Department of Education Central Office as consultant, designer, and writer for the K-12 program for Universal Kindergarten and English curriculum and evaluator for technology and livelihood education modules for grade 7 and 8. Also, he was taken as consultant and writer for English 3 module, which serve as model for all modules development for English grades 4 to 6. In 2014, he was taken in by the United States Assistance for International Development as language consultant from RTI PhilEd data in the contextualization of early grade reading assessment EGRA for grade 3 and early grade assessment for mathematics assessment EGMA for Waray-Waray language, which are now commonly known as early language literacy and numeracy assessment for grade 1. After this, he was taken in by the Education Assessment Division, AYAD, as consultant in the development and validation of national entry assessment for grades 4, 7, and 11, and exit assessment for grade 6, 10, and 12 on campus journalism program of the Department of Education. While having all of these independent consultancy projects in DepEd and other private schools association in the country, he was serving the Sisters of Mary Schools Philippine Administrative Research and Development Center or SMSARDC as their academic and curriculum consultant. Moreover, he is one of the top 10 reading and preschool specialists in the Philippines and is a sought-after resource speaker, lecturer, and consultant to various seminars and conferences here and abroad. He was one of the invited plenary speakers at the 50th Regional Language Center, Singapore, with the theme Transcending Boundaries in Language Learning, Language Arts, and ELT across the curriculum. He has written various books, modules, let review materials for Philippine Normal University and for other colleges and universities all over our country. He graduated with a Bachelor of Early Childhood Education degree, cum laude, and a certificate in reading specialization, recipient of Service and Leadership Award. He received his Master of Arts in Teaching with specialization in reading at Philippine Normal University. Outstanding reading graduate. He took PhD in Reading Education at PNU and took PhD in English Studies units at the University of Santo Tomas, Manila. And now, finishing PhD in Curriculum and Instruction at the Philippine Normal University, Manila. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to you our guest speaker, Brother Roderick Motril Aguirre. Great day to you, sir.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Sir Rick. Naka-mute po ang inyong microphone.
Yes, sir, Rick.
Mute. There you go.
Ayan.
When technology really is something that we need to be ready about. Anyway, when technology backs down, we have IT people who would support us with that. Anyway, let me share again my power presentation with you, and I think I know how are supposed to do it. Let me share screen first, and then tab and go back to the StreamYard, and then share screen. Un momento, por favor. All right. And there you go. Is my screen okay? My power presentation is online already.
Yes, sir. Ako, it is already shared na to.
Okay, audio on. All
Audio
right,
check.
audio check.
All right.
Well, what's good thing about the hybrid learning delivery is that when we call hybrid, is that we already have existing materials that could be transformed into a more context-based learning delivery. When I say context-based delivery, we need to look at the possible different contexts of our students. And what we're going to discuss this afternoon may be something that is still quite new in the Philippines, although personally, we already had a pilot of hybrid learning in Bicol. Reason being is that one of the district supervisor of Tiwi Albay is a good friend of mine and a graduate of the Sisters of Mary, asked help from the Sisters of Mary and of course from myself, and came up with a huge favor to implement a hybrid kind of distance learning education because based on the results on the mid-year of the school year 2020 and 2021, there are a lot of negative if not low returns of quality of learning from the students. Reason is that they found out because of the distance learning education and MDL or modular learning deliveries, teachers recognize and analyze that there are a lot of non-reading or struggling readers amidst their school. And that's a huge problem now because there's a difference between the demand from the student in an MDL to an online to a face to face. In the face to face interaction, those students who are struggling readers cannot be easily pinpointed because the major skill that they need to use would be listening skills. What we are able to identify would be students who have probably low skills on listening comprehension because it's face to face, but because of the distance education and uh, two modalities, we implemented MDL, that's the modular distance learning, and then we have also the online distance learning. We found out that the major requirement for students to survive this modalities of distance education is literacy. I've mentioned this before to Bea of the central office that when they design the learning materials that will be disseminated to the field, they need to consider the literacy level because prior to the pandemic, we already had a data showing that there's a huge percentage of population in the Philippines who are in junior high school who are struggling readers. I don't want to use the word non-readers because it's a profound word for it. I would just say struggling readers. I think Sir Noel and other PSDS would, know already what the definition between a struggling reader and a non-reader. But the point here, ladies and gentlemen, is that that element was not considered. A lot of students, I would say, in the Bicol, I could only mention Bicol, TUI Bicol, because they're the ones who piloted this with us, of course, when we designed the hybrid learning delivery. We found out that a lot of students were not able to accomplish the activities in the module, and those who are students who are enrolled on the ODL were not able to fully finish the activities online, not necessarily because that they are procrastinating or they have study habits problem. It could be one of those intervening factors that contribute to not being able to deliver all of those required learning deliverables from our students. But primarily, it was found out by the teachers in the two people that students had problems understanding what was written on the module and what was written on the online module because even if it's online, it still is written. Majority of the materials that we post online are written. And if there are videos, the videos are support to the understanding of the students of whether it's an MDL or online module. Now, what we could say now here is that here's the problem now. With the onset of the MDL and ODL, there's a huge possibility that we will have more struggling readers this coming year, this coming school year, as never have seen before. So we will be expecting that. Hence, the idea of hybrid. Now, what's a good thing what we did with TUI, okay, with TUI, Albay TUI, is that in the Second half of the school year, in fact, actually, we started just January. That could be second half, I suppose. We drastically changed the way the ODL and the MDL are delivered to the students. One considerations would be the font sizes, the font styles, because there should be a different standard of the creation of the instructional materials for students in the primary grade levels, not to mention the preschool or the kindergarten, and then for the grade 4 to grade 6 or the middle school or key stage 2, and then we have the key stage 3, the junior high school would have different type of guidelines for the creation of those instructional materials. And therefore, my point taken here is that the designing of the hybrid entails a lot of training on our teachers who develop the materials, even if these materials are downloaded from the central office. The central office designs these materials, these learning materials, to accommodate general hypothetical understanding of context of all students in the Philippines. But it has to be contextualized. This material is downloaded at different division and then downloaded down to the districts and then downloaded down to the schools are to be contextualized depending on the capacity, identified capacity of our students. And that's what we're going to discuss today. When we talk about hybrid learning, we're not only talking about what's available in the community, but we're looking at the capacity of the students. All right. Title page pa lang, ang dami ko nang sinabi po, All right. I'm just happy to share what we have been doing with Tiwi. Yun nga lang po, nagkaroon kami ng gap. Sorry to shift to Filipino. I think I'm okay to say speak in Filipino because we're all Filipinos here. Kaya balugod ko mag-Bisaya, kaya Bisaya man ko. So I think we're not gonna use Bisaya or waray-waray. I'll be just using English and Filipino perhaps, code switching every now and then. What happened is that most of the teachers in Bicol TUI, you may ask, Sir, bakit po pinili niyo ang Bicol TUI? I was supposed to be part of the ABC Plus of the USA in the Philippines, but I declined because I was not allowed by the congregation that I belong to take on another responsibility and will entail me to travel since our school, the Sister Seminary Congregation and its schools, is implementing a bubble community program. No one will get out, no one will get in. So I was not allowed to accept the responsibility of the ABC Plus. But nonetheless, the ABC Plus is now a partner of Bicol, specifically on TUI, on helping creating hybrid learning deliveries. All right. So I'm happy to tell you that the things that I'll be sharing with you are these are some of the designs that we have piloted into it. And initially we have initial data and feedback as to whether they work or not or wouldn't work. So that's what I'm gonna share with you. I want to share these hybrid designs that are so theoretical but may not be practicable or implementable in your own respective localities or respective places in Dasmariñas. So I think I will skim over this because it's already been mentioned by Sir Jojo. So the training workshop objectives, you have enabling, enhanced knowledge and skills, implementation of hybrid learning. So we'll discuss a little bit how it's done, but alas, because of the I really love to share everything I want to share with you. How do we create modules for kinder? How do we create modules for grade 1 to grade 3, grade 4 to grade 6? That's something that I love to share. But I'll just give you a generic overview, and perhaps later on, when we go to specificities of your program, creating the hybrid, we can probably have another sharing of ideas. I go this training capacity building and sharing of ideas because I have changed a lot by my training. Instead of having all of this more theoretical and conceptual, my idea of training the teachers is sharing what works and doesn't work, and what I have done as a curriculum consultant, what I have done, and sharing to you the pros and cons of it, just to be honest and just to be realistic with you. No, sabi nga natin, real talk tayo, people. All right. Again, I would like to share my advocacy that our goal here is to ensure not just our teachers, our goal here is not only to take care of the needs of the learners. Hybrid learning is also taking care of the needs of the teachers, because there are a lot of teachers who have been trained to handle average learners but may not have been given training to handle struggling learners and those students who are gifted, or students who are with high capacity capacity and ability towards learning or academic training. So our teachers may be lacking on those skills. So the things that I'll be sharing with you, I would say these are the preparations should be done given this design, and then this would be the preparation and support that the teachers will need. And there probably would be some changes about how we look at how we section our students, and maybe some legality problems because debit order not debit order, it's Republic Act 10533 and the IRR of Republic 10533 entails that the section should be heterogeneous sectioning. Hybrid learning may not be conducive to those specifications or stipulations in the implementing rules and regulations of the K-12 curriculum. Just skipping over this, so we will have enhanced teachers' knowledge for expected outputs. So this will be the outline. So we'll just touch a little about distance education and what's being implemented in the part of education in the Philippines. And I will already mention MDL and ODL. And then, of course, I think you've already heard about our REMST. I think yes, you know. Of course, you know Mimos, Bisosa, Misosa, and else. Okay, so those already have been there in place at the Department of Education that does distance education. All right, but there's also a tinge of blended and hybrid there. We'll discuss that a little while. Then we have what's blended education and what element of distance education and then of blended education get be combined together to create a hybrid type of learning delivery. On that note, with these questions, we will now be able to deduce that for us to be able to do hybrid learning is that our distance education materials, primarily the learning modules, are already in place. It is easy for teachers to transition from distance and blended education or learning delivery from distance blended education to hybrid kasi aayusin lang naman natin ang setup ng estudyante. Ang pinag-iba, designs are the same. Ang pinagkaiba kasi is the selection of students. Tama po ang definition kanina po ni ASDS at ni SDS about hybrid. But then again, the question hangs that how do we select those students who should be on the limited face-to-face? That's the question that hybrid learning answers. Okay? Wait lang, pinagpapawisan ng lolo nyo. So I think this is more like a a conversation. So ang daldal kasi ng lolo nyo, so pag nagkaroon ako ng dryness ng throat, I'll drink water. And then we'll answer the question, what hybrid learning delivery is most appropriate for the varying context of students and teachers, given the key stages. So I am giving you a heads up that the design of hybrid learning for the elementary may be varied from preschool to grade 1 to grade 3. That will be clustered together. And then the design for grade 4 to grade 6 will be different. The blended learning approach, the difference of that is that the blended learning approach could be chosen as, we could only choose one blended approach for all grade levels. But if we go for hybrid, we're looking at also considering that there are different learning context demands of the different key stages as identified in the K-12 curriculum. Okay? And then how do schools plan and prepare for hybrid learning delivery modes? I will just touch a little on the steps, how we can, initially start preparing for the hybrid design that you have chosen. I'll just present the hybrid designs, suggests, but at the end of the day, it will be the decision of every school. I'm sorry, but a hybrid learning delivery mode designs cannot be division wide. It has to be decided on per school. In fact, the best way is per section or per class. Let's start with the first question. What is distance education? I think you know that already. Now, the distance education implemented in the school year 2020 and 2021 gave us with a transition curriculum. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but the MELCs are considered to be a transition curriculum. Once the pandemic is over, the central office will release the final K-12 CGs. So the central office now is on the last stage of the finalization of the final evaluated and validated K to 12 curriculum. So in the 2021, supposedly on the school year 2020 and to 21 on the roadmap of the K to 12 implementation in the Philippines, the final K to 12 CG should have been released, and therefore refinement of the learning modules downloaded to different divisions should have started. Only that because of the pandemic. Um, to lessen the burden. I don't know if it's lessen really the burden because of the new MLC of the MLCs, it required new preparations from the teachers. Anyway, my point there is that the MLCs would be a transition curriculum and will be phased out once the pandemic is over, because it we go back to the K to 12 curriculum, but we will be using the final CGs. Heads up, just a heads up for you guys. Now, in distance education, we're looking at two perspectives, because when you say distance education, the teacher is physically absent or separated from the learners. And this is what we call as two-faceted perspective, the distance teaching and the distance learning. Now, the distance teaching could be on what we call as um, remote, definitely remote, but it could also be a remote face-to-face. It could be a remote materials or modular um, delivery. Now, in the case in the public school system, was the design that was used primarily was MDL and ODL. But what's the requirement there is the scope and sequence already provided for us by the Department of Education Central Office in the form of MELCs, and then even for the module pedagogical design, the central office already dictated how the learning delivery should be designed, because the learning materials have already been developed. If not on the central level, it was developed at the regional level or division level, and the schools will have just to contextualize its delivery to, or deliver just specifically that, to the different students. And finally, the instructional plans. Now, the instructional plans would be more of a schedule of the delivery and taking and sending out these modules to the students. I remember um, a member of our congregation by the name of Cyrus Hayag, who died from COVID-19 because of, I was also a teacher from the division of Dasmariñas. I don't know specifically what school, all right, but he was an aspirant in our congregation. Anyway, so the instructional plan poses as a home schedule for our students, giving them a schedule of what to be done, what page, what module or part of the module should be accomplished a certain time, and so on and so forth. Pero the difference between distance education and a hybrid is that there's only one schedule for all students. And I think Department of Education Central Office just released one schedule, and then probably other divisions, regions that I know, like in Bicol, made some certain modifications, but is still using the central office backbone, central schedule, home schedule, or learning schedule as a backbone for whatever modification was done. Nonetheless, the idea there that all students will have to follow, not considering, of course, whether students are readers. That's one. Second, considering whether the parents of the students are readers. Now, let's not say readers. Let's make it more broad, literate. In the case of delivering synchronous delivery, that will be okay because we have ODL, that the teachers will go online, the students will go online together. Okay, together. The feedback on this design on ODL, synchronous delivery, is that students get cut off because of weak connectivity. So modifications were done. Again, we're talking about in BCOL, okay? Modifications were done by pre-recording the lectures of the teachers being uploaded to the local LMS of subscribed by the region 5, and then the students, when they have connectivity, they download that. All right. The problem is that there are, few, the parents and the students, not all of them in that locality have access, if not owning, those required gadgets to be able to do ODL. So this is one of the many problems of the ODL. It requires connectivity. It requires technology. Nagawa po sa Makati kasi nag-release ang Makati. Pero mayaman kasi sila. Paano yung iba? 'Di ba? Hindi naman kaya ng mga magulang. Hindi naman natin pwedeng i-require ang poorest of the poor to buy all of this unless the local government would, provide them with that. Kaya lang pag provide yun, baka ibenta rin. Anyway, now on the asynchronous delivery, we found out, again, contextualize it in Bicol, that's the experience that we had. We found out that most of the students struggled to understand what was written on the module. They struggled so much. So that's why they relied on their parents. That's where, when you saw a lot of news on television, on over the radio, and on TikTok, uploading videos about parents doing the modular activities for their kids. The reason definitely for Beagle was that the kids struggled so much with literacy and understanding module, and no matter how we require the students to do the activity on their own, it's just that they required, okay, a scaffold, a literate and adult who would help them understand the module. Now, I cannot say it's a negative thing, because if the parents are not teachers, they do not know how to support the learning of their students at home. So what we did with that locality in Bicol is that, immediately I suggested you should orient your parents or the parents of the students for para teaching skills. Para teaching skills, in a sense that they should also be given an idea how to support their kids using the module. What happened, I think, in most cases in the Philippines, in distance education, why it failed so much, is because we did not consider that the parents or the primary caregivers at home must also perform as a para teacher, because the teacher is not there. What if there are some instructions, some pictures that the students cannot understand? A good example would be the most controversial material in the elementary, yung blank amok. The material was used in Bicol. Tapos ang nagkomento mga taga-Tagalog region. Sa Bicol, ang lamok ay nagsisimula sa N, namok. So panimbestigan bakit daw mali ang ginawa ng Bicol. Sabi ko, wait, there's what we call as mother tongue element in the learning and development of the materials. It may be wrong in the culture of another place in the Philippines like Tagalog region, but it's right in that place. Alas, nagkaroon ng controversy doon. Talagang nagkaroon ng review. And I was questioned because I was one of the consultants. And I said, the material was used for mother tongue. Namok naman talaga. Alang ang turo natin ang lamok. Well, the point there is that parents, people, and community were not thoroughly oriented as to their role in the support of the modular distance learning. Ang nakita lang nila sa distance learning is that pabasahin lang. Hindi inisip na yun na po ang primary learning material ng bata. The ODL becomes more of a support, because I don't know if in your case there is a full ODL implementation. The one school that I helped in Cebu did a full ODL. Full ODL as in Monday to Friday nag-ODL sila. After the first quarter, ang daming teachers nagkaroon ng mental health problem. Why? It's very demanding to do ODL. Ma-demand maggawa ng online materials, paggawa ng videos, paggawa ng materials, because ODL requires not just online material but also module. Alright? So medyo yun po ang mga kailangan natin i-address when we do hybrid learning modalities. Okay, so this is what we need to consider though. All right, in the blended and distance education, we consider what the schools could offer, and we found out that it is only one of the perspectives in considering how we can really continuously serve our students in the Philippines. Now, let's look at this. This is what I suggest though. This is what I suggest and have been suggesting. So I suggest that, let me hide this, that the teacher and the school be allowed to decide what distance education, be it distance education or hybrid education design, is appropriate for their student. What works for one group of students or for one school may not work for another school, especially that we are implementing heterogeneous heterogeneous sectioning. So if we have these three designs, okay, we have asynchronous. The students who are appropriate for asynchronous, okay, when say asynchronous, hindi nagkikita-kita. So pwede natin silang ipasok doon sa MDL or modular distance learning or remote ODL. Pag sinabi natin remote ODL, ibig sabihin all the materials are uploaded on the LMS and then the students just download them and then still go back home, still work on their own. There's also what we call as synchronous online. Synchronous online is the teacher the teacher is online live discussing. So, hindi po natin masisituate yung asynchronous at saka synchronous, ibig sabihin hindi talaga. Pag sinabi natin asynchronous, hindi talaga present si teacher. Synchronous could be remote, could be face-to-face. Okay? Yung sinasabi natin na hybrid. Now, my suggestion to Tiwi, I'm not suggesting this to you, but I suggested this to Tiwi, and what happened, it really works a lot. So, those students in a section, so dapat ang pagtrato ng design ng hybrid ay by section. Bakit po? Kasi ang ginawa po natin, sectioning, heterogeneous po tayo. Sa heterogeneous grouping po natin, titingnan natin ngayon kung, one, sino ang independent learners? Pag sinabi natin independent learners, these are students who are self-propelled with good study habits. Okay? Hindi ibig sabihin matalino, ha? Kasi marami mga estudyante na hindi matalino pero studious. Marami mga bata na matalino pero hindi studious. Alright? Ang sinasabi dito sa asynchronous, ibig sabihin learning on their own using the modules. These are students who are independent and who have established good study habits. Pag sinabi natin good study habits, they know that pag sinabing kailangan nila mag-aral, hindi sila mag-ML, hindi sila kung anong gagawin, they will study. Hindi sila kailangan sabihan ng mga magulang o sabihan ng mga teacher, and so they are self-propelled to do the task provided for them. But it's not just that. We need to also consider that they are highly literate. Remember, tignan nyo po, hindi intelligence ang basehan dito. Independence and study habit. Alright? Highly literate kasi marami mga bata na maari po nating matalino on oral form but not literate in written form. So titingnan po natin na since they're working on their own, dapat mataas po ang comprehension skills level ng bata to qualify for the asynchronous. This is where we failed in the MDL. We assumed that all students are readers, not considering especially that prior to the pandemic, there was already a report that we have about, well, this was in Bicol, 70% of population of the students enrolled in the public schools of Bicol are struggling readers. So in that note, they cannot qualify for asynchronous. Sana po. All right. Next would be high. Pag sinabi ko pong asynchronous na design po ito, pure asynchronous po. Ito po yung ginagawa natin sa ALS. Di ba yung ALS natin, orientation tayo, puro lang follow-up. There's a schedule na po. Yun po ang parang pure asynchronous. Pure. Alright? And with high academic performance. So, sinabi natin high academic performance, so definitely, meron ng record ang bata sa school. So, ibig sabihin, hindi natin pwedeng gamitin ang pure asynchronous sa kinder. Hindi natin pwedeng gamitin ang pure asynchronous sa grade 1. Bakit? Dahil ang results ng academic performance ng bata sa kinder is not really academic performance. It is just a feedback on their maturity on the different domains. I should know because I designed it. So hindi natin siya pwedeng gamitin kasi ang tinitingnan lang natin doon ay yung capability of the child to survive in a formal school in grade 1. So most specifically, pwede na natin ibigay sa bata ang sinasabi natin na high academic performance by grade 3. Sir, bakit sa grade 3 pa? Because beginning reading pa lang sila sa grade 1, grade 2. At expected lang pa lang sila maging readers, fully readers in the middle of grade 3. Therefore, the results for academic performance for pure asynchronous as a design for pure MDL would start only for grade 4 and above. Kaya lang ang tanong po natin, bakit tayo nag-MDL sa grade 1, grade 2, grade 3? I'm not saying it's you guys there and in Dasmariñas. But sa Bicol nga, yun nangyari. Yung grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, MDL. Sabi ko, Di ba beginning reading sila? Eh bakit di lalong sila hindi magiging readers kasi the elements of beginning reading and early literacy and early oracy would be oral exposure. So sana ang ginawa, kung nag-MDL po kayo, sana nag-hybrid kayo agad. Dinagdagan ng audio files. So ang ginawa, like si Ma'am Leila, I don't know, Sir Noel, if you remember, ang ginawa nila ni Ma'am Leila, kung di ko lang alam kung natuloy, pero they had a workshop with me on creating radio broadcasting stories. But hindi ko alam kung natuloy. Pero ang natuloy po ay dun sa Cagayan de Oro. The Cagayan de Oro did is that they created a time synced with the time that the students are supposed, the preschool students and grade 1 students are supposed to have story time. So nag-air out ang local radio of the stories created by Department of Education in collaboration with DSWD. Kasi may mga guidelines sa mga child protection and so on and so forth on broadcasting. So they had to ensure that it yielded results. Why? The teachers was able to tell the parents, and even the local government was able to tell the parents through the barangay officials that this time, dapat ang bata naka-tune in. Bakit po? Oral exposure eh. Kailangan may oral exposure kasi oral muna bago yung print. How can students read what's in print when they have no oral input to that? And that's what they did for kinder up to grade 3. Again, ano ang kailangan doon? Kailangan ng suporta ng local government. Hindi ko lang alam sa ibang lugar kung talagang may ganon. So ang ginawa ng governor noon, at saka ng mayor ng Cagayan de Oro, kasi isang pamilya lang po sila, talagang they mandated that the local radio station and the local television, that was Channel 7 and Channel 8, to air out, support the programs of Department of Education. Really great. All right? That's the design the program that I suggested to Ma'am Leila, Batangas City, and they said that they're going to follow suit. I hope it worked well. I never heard after that. Anyway, so that's for the pure asynchronous. Now, for pure synchronous, pag sinabi natin pure synchronous, it can be pure online. And then, of course, kasi distance education po, wala pong face-to-face. So, pag pure synchronous, it is pure online delivery of learning. I had one school in Cebu who did ODL. I'll tell you the effects of that. At anong hybrid design ang pwedeng nagawa dapat nun. Now, for the synchronous, ang kailangan dito po ay for independent learners, pure po ha, pure, hindi pa tayo nagko-combine ha. For independent learners who have good academic performance, literate, but lacking in good study habits. Ibig sabihin po dito, independent po sila, pero hindi nag-aaral. Kailangan may suporta. Ibig sabihin, mag-aaral lang pag mayroon ng online. So, ang ginawa po ng school na to sa Cebu, I'm not gonna mention, of course, baka for data privacy purposes po. The pure ODL. Sabi ko, okay, pwede naman yan kasi there's a distance education pure ODL design. Kaya lang problema po dito is the capacity, the Wi-Fi capacity, connectivity in your locality, in your locale, would really suffice that kind of program. And this is nila kakayanin daw kasi may suporta naman daw si governor. So, okay, fine. Ang nangyari, may mga kasi nga, connectivity problem talaga pag pure ODL. May mga bata na nakakapasok tapos nawawala sa gitna. Ang problema is that yung ODL nila, hindi lang nasuportahan ng module. Remember that pag pure ODL, most of the learning takes place online. But then again, it could have been prevented if the people in that locality accepted, especially that school, accepted that there is a connectivity problem, a tech problem, hence, nag-hybrid sana siya. Ang ginawa niya dito sana ay nagkaroon siya sana ng MDL combined with ODL. So, mangyari po nito, hindi na pure synchronous, could be synchronous plus asynchronous. Pero remember, pag sinabi ng distance education, all students in a class, same ang ginagawa. Walang classification pa ha. Walang classification na, mag-online lang natin ngayon ay ito mga estudyante na struggling, mga ganyan. Later po, hybrid po ang tawag natin doon. Next is the synchronous and synchronous is a combination of what's being provided for the asynchronous and synchronous. Definitely, qualified lahat ng estudyante for a combination of synchronous and asynchronous. But definitely, dapat combination po for students who are struggling. Those students who are struggling cannot survive asynchronous. It has to be combined with the synchronous. Therefore, for all learners, especially for students who are, say, have a high academic standing, high literacy level, had good study habits, may have shorter amount of time for the online learning, while for those who are struggling will have more time. Later on, we'll discuss how they will be how they will be grouped. All right. Ang bilis ng oras, 2:30 na, daldal ko pala. Okay, wait. Next, we have what is blended learning versus hybrid. Okay, titingnan natin how we can use the designs of the blended learning delivery modalities and then turn that into a hybrid form. So there is no one design for hybrid. It depends on the profile of your students. So the requirement for hybrid design for delivery of learning to our students is dependent on the profile of your students. It depends on what profile you wanted to consider, but I would like to suggest that we be comprehensive with the profiling of our students. So blended learning is a learning experience that integrates online with traditional face-to-face class activities in a planned pedagogically valuable manner. Ito yung sinasabi po natin na ang mangyayari po dito ay ang blended learning approach is a combination, okay, of limited face-to-face, and then mostly distance or MDL. Now, the point of blended learning is that section yan. Tinatrato natin kung ano ang disenyo para sa isang section is the same design for all other sections. That's the downside with blended learning. It universalizes, it generalizes all the needs of students. But you have experience that the needs of one section may not be the same needs of another section. Therefore, blended learning needs to be modified. Hybrid na po ang tawag natin. Modified to the felt needs of the students enrolled in your section. I'll tell you later on what we did to modify that. So these are some of the designs of the blended learning matrix. So we have local synchronous, that's face-to-face. We have local asynchronous. We have site-specific. Ibig sabihin, hindi nakikita si teacher pero pupunta sila sa school kung saan nandoon siguro ang mga learning materials and so on and so forth. Ang ginawa ng TV dahil hindi nakakapunta ang bata sa school kasi nga natibag kasi sa bagyo, natibag yung road. So ang ginawa ng division office is that what they did is they requested the help of the local government, especially the barangay, that the students will do their film viewing. Kasi may mga film viewing sa ginawa nila sa kanilang modules, gagawin po by schedule sa kanilang barangay hall. Scheduled po. So, ang tawag po natin doon ay local asynchronous. Okay? Why? Because ang tinitingnan po natin dito sa blended po is the relationship of the teacher and the student. Yun pong dalawa na yun. Pag si teacher wala, automatic asynchronous yun. Pag sila magkasama or kung sila ay nag-interact, synchronous yun. It could be face-to-face synchronous. It could be remote synchronous. It could be to a video conference, texting, telephone, cyberlinks, and so synchronous po ang tawag natin. Magkaiba lang kung local at saka remote. Asynchronous naman po natin is that pag sinabi natin asynchronous, there is a specific place napupunta ng mga bata. That can be done if we allow our students to go to school and maximize the places ng school, especially for what I would say collaborative work kasi hindi magawa ng mga batang collaboration in different places. I'm not sure if that's it would be safe for Dasmariñas, but then again sa TV po they have about really low cases of COVID-19. So the IATF, again may permit po tayo para magganyan. So the IATF approved the limited face-to-face interaction for the second half of the school year 2020 and 2021. I'll just give you a heads up. It yielded after 2 weeks. Kasi ang ginawa nila, grupo nila ang mga estudyante per grade level sineparate nila ang say grade 1 yun muna. Grade 1, sineparate nila yung mga readers in mother tongue at saka struggling readers in mother tongue. Ay sorry, grade 2 pala yun, grade 2. Kasi mother tongue beginning reading nasa kinder at saka grade 1. So mostly pagdating sa grade 2, they're already somehow novice readers. So, sineparate nila para yung mga estudyante na struggling readers in grade 2, sets of teachers will be the one to conduct face-to-face. While those students who are already novice readers na po sila, can read on their own on the kind of layout of the modules, ginagawa po na full MDL po sila. So what happened here is that the school setup was changed drastically. Instead of having sections, they only have 2 clusters of students in every grade level, except of course for preschool and grade 1, because they are concerned to be all non-readers. But their primary objective was that, are they readers? When they did the hybrid learning designs in the middle of the school year 2021-2022, their consideration is the literacy skills of the students. I don't know why they specifically focus on that, probably because they are recipient of the USAID literacy program. So that's why they focus on that. But I tell you, after a month, all the I think 70% as the report, the 70% of the struggling readers in the group was promoted to novice readers. Yun naman importante natin eh. Sinabi nyo nga, high quality returns. Pag ang bata struggling sa reading, problema yan sa pagtuturo. Hindi niya maintindihan ang lessons, especially in module and online. Hindi rin siya makakaintindi sa mga tests because all learning activities require literacy. So this is the decision. I would say the decision of TV Albay is really, really strategic because siguro dahil nga siguro na-report sila na sila mababa ang isa sila sa pinakamababa ang resulta ng literacy tests. Why am I laughing? It should be bad. Anyway, so this is blended learning. Okay, when we combine them together, it becomes now hybrid learning modalities. But the hybrid learning modalities, you need to understand what you need to consider. Okay, let's now proceed. So let's look at the models of blended learning one by one. I think you know what face-to-face driver is. So this is where the teacher drives the instruction and augments the digital tools. So face-to-face talaga ito. Now the question is, in the distance education perspective, who needs face-to-face driver learning modality? All the students? Sabihin na natin, pwede po sir. But then again, paano ang prioritization mo ng number of hours or frequency of face-to-face? So kung inallow tayo ng AITF ng say 3 face-to-face in a week, kagaya po sa kanila doon, ang inallow sa kanila ng IATF ay 3 days lang, 3 days in a week with, the number of minutes, 50 minutes for the elementary, 60 minutes for the high school. So 3 days lang. So ang tanong ngayon, if there are say 50 students, lahat ba sila? Kasi hindi pinayagan eh. Ang binigay lang ng IATF is 20% of the population of the students. If we have about 50, we're talking about, 20% ng 50? We're talking about 5 or 10 students. Kung 3 sessions lang yan, we're talking about 30 students. Meron pang 20 na hindi makakapag face-to-face. Bakit po? Hindi papayagan na sabay-sabay sila. So mangyayari ngayon doon, may group A, group B, group C. The question is, how will the teacher prioritize the face-to-face driver design for those students who are struggling? For the students who should have face-to-face. So, ang ginawa po namin is that identify po na natin yung sinasabi natin talaga na ang bata na sobrang, one, mababa ang literacy level. Second, mababa ang study habits. Second, mababa ang low academic standing. Pag lahat sila dyan ay check, dapat present siya sa lahat ng schedule ng face-to-face. Kasi kailangan niya ng support. Ngayon, kunwari ang bata po ay good literacy level, poor study habits perhaps, and then low academic standing, ang tawag lang po natin yan sa bata tamad. So probably bibigay po natin siya ng one face-to-face session in a week. The point there, ladies and gentlemen, is that when we hybrid the face-to-face driver blended design, is that the decision we make who will avail of the face-to-face driver is we select the students who need it most. The student who needs the support of the teacher or group of teachers that they need to learn because they can learn faster because there is a teacher support. Those students who can learn on their own may just go directly to MDL. Pero anong saan yun kukunin po natin nag-decision na yun? Yun po ang ginawa ng TIWIG. Nagpa-test po sila ng reading, listening comprehension, and reading comprehension across grade levels. Sir, saan nila po kinuha yung test? Pinahiram ko po ng test namin sa Sisters of Mary. But then again po, dapat gagamitin nyo po yung sa inyo. Meron po tayong mga test galing sa central office. So if you want a copy of that, all you have to do is write a letter to the central office having to avail of the copy of ELNA. Yung ELNA po gagamitin po ninyo kasi standardized na po yun. Naroon po namin yun. Okay? So yun po, how we hybrid the blended face-to-face driver. Another one is what we call as rotation. Students cycle through a schedule of independent online study and face-to-face classroom time. So on top, yung rotation po natin is that again, there are students who will avail of a one-to-one. Okay, one-to-one face-to-face interaction with the teacher. Face-to-face remote. Okay, face-to-face remote, that means online. Now the question would be, what's the hybrid catch of it? I mean, what would be the qualification for a rotation of individual students who will qualify for a face-to-face interaction with the students? Definitely students who are struggling, okay? Struggling, not just with the academics, but also with their, I could say study habits, independence, would go for one-to-one, face-to-face. So, ginawa ba yan sa TV? Yes. They did a one-to-one, pero hindi po remote, local. Ang ginawa po nila, they created, di ba 3 beses sila magkakaroon ng face-to-face. And then, ang ginawa po ng mga teacher is that, section po, no? Inalaw po sila na magkakaroon po ng rotation na one-to-one, only those students who are after 2 weeks still struggle after the face-to-face driver. So, nakulang pa rin yung oras para sa mga bata para makasurvive. So, ang ginawa, from the students who qualified for the limited face-to-face, identified students who struggle with that, yun po ang nilagay sa rotation, na kailangan ng one-on-one. Alright? So, nag-rotate po sila. So, it becomes rotation is that the students have now a time to be with the teacher. Now, what was the result of it? The teachers told me that at first, it was difficult for them to do it. But then as the time went by, they found out that the main cause of the student why they struggle so much is that they have not established trust with the teacher. They have not trusted the teacher. But with the one-on-one, the teacher and the struggling student was able to get to know each other. They got to know to each other, and the student and the teacher having the rotation program established that connection, and therefore the student was able to compensate for the lacking of the necessary skills to survive the kind of blended approach being implemented in Region 5. They are now on their second month. It just so happened yun nga po, patayin sa teacher. Kasi ang nangyari po kasi, it was a pilot of just 2 schools. Had it been a combination po, sana nag-teaching. Yun po ulit ang hindi na foresee. Kasi hindi lahat ng teachers can handle remediation. Not all teachers can handle face-to-face. Mas demanding po ang face-to-face kasi yun po, yung kung sa counseling po, ang tawag po natin do is nagkakaroon po ng emotional affiliation ang teacher and student to the point that once the student graduates or moves on to another grade level, the teacher suffers from separation. Not to mention also that the student, one way or the other, also experiences anxiety disorder or anxiety separation disorder. Pero the student can easily adjust. But the adults, like the teachers, have problems with that. So ABC Plus is looking at the debriefing processes for those who would go through rotation. So what we did, yun nga po, nag-link sila sa amin sa confraternity po namin, sa aming congregation, to help the teachers who went through rotation, yung one-on-one cycle with the identified students for the debriefing. Paano ma-release? Kasi one way or the other, kasi nagkakaroon muna kasi ng time na pagkikilala. Anong problema nyo sa bahay? May meron nakikilala ng mga bata yung struggles ng bata sa bahay. So, na-establish yung awa, yung pagmamahal ng teacher sa bata na yon. Tas malapit na, tapos na ang school year, no? Tas magsa-separate na yung mga bata, nagtatanong, ang mga teacher hindi makatulog, yung nasa rotation hindi makatulog, ano kayang ginagawa, especially nung nagkaroon ng 2 weeks na wala silang interaction sa rotation kasi ng kabagyo sa Bicol. Hindi daw sila makatulog kasi hindi na alam kung nangyari. Parang nanay talaga at tatay na nag-iisip sa welfare ng estudyante qualified for rotation. So the ABC Plus and the Vision sought help from us to help in the debriefing. Paano madidetach? Ano ang strategies ang gagawin ng teacher para madetach sila emotionally to the student who has already learned? Yung bata na nakastruggle na. To be honest, anong nangyari po? Yung mga bata na identify na struggling students, after 2 months po, they were able to go back to mainstream. Back to MDL. Kasi nabibigyan natin ng bansa. That's the good side about hybrid learning. We are able to identify students who are really struggling. And that student who struggled, or those group of students who struggle so much, must benefit from the low percentage that we are allowed to conduct face-to-face. Another one is what we call as a flex. Okay, the flex is most of the curriculum is delivered via a digital platform and teachers are available for a face-to-face consultation and support. So, ibig sabihin, si teacher dito, ang kanyang role lang po ay scaffold or support. Ang tawag natin dito ay LMS-based. LMS, Learning Management System. Now, I don't know if it's working for the public school system, but this is what we did for 2 schools here in Cavite, but it's a private school. So everything is via the LMS. Now, the parents and the students can consult with the teacher on a given platform, like a chat platform or a video conferencing platform, but it's mostly consulting the teacher on what the students are struggling on, and therefore be able to compensate. The teacher now is able to think about creating intervention programs. Kasi ang nangyari po dito sa Flex po, ang requirement po, dapat ta-upload na lahat ng materials for the whole quarter. So the responsibility now of the teacher, since it's now nasa LMS na po lahat, monitoring na lang titingnan niya. Tapos kung ano ang lumalabas na mga problema ng mga bata, dapat, ito na ang hybrid, dapat ang gagawin ng teacher ay to create intervention programs and in remediation programs, whatever problem arises in the Flex program. Like in the case here in Imus, a problem arose because again, the student had, ang tawag ko, I don't know if I'm gonna mention it. He was not able to survive the Flex program. Reason being is that he was suffering from bipolar po. There are times na merong mga videos na upload na sa private kasi ito mga videos na would trigger him emotionally. Triggers pang tawag ng psychologist ng triggers na nagkakos ng kanyang depression. So, ang bata, hindi niya natapos sa mga online materials na dapat natapos na. So, nagtataka ang mga schools kung bakit, ng teacher, bakit itong bata na to specifically hindi nagawa. So, dapat palang, ginawa pala ng teacher na nakita pala nag-intervention. But in the Flex kasi, there is no intervention program. All students must go. That's the downside of blended. It does not consider individual deviant responses and deviant behaviors of students given the kind of blended learning design. So the hybrid comes in is that the teacher should create intervention programs and remediation programs. But here's the catch. The teacher who are supposed to provide intervention programs of a Flex program or remediation program should be given training on to how to conduct remediation and intervention. What happened is that the administration thought because she is a teacher, and being a teacher, she should know how to do intervention and remediation. Hindi po. Kasi another degree po ang remediation intervention. Hindi, yung mga teacher natin nag-graduate po natin, they are taught to teach the subject and there is minimal training for them to conduct and create intervention programs and remediation programs. And these are 2 separate programs that they need to think about. Isa pa din po yan. Not to mention the bureaucratic bureaucratic system that the program should be submitted to the principal, and the principal will have to approve that and recommend that to the division office. It takes a lot. So I think the hybrid there is for the public school is that to come up with a system that would be easier for the teachers to really conduct intervention and remediation programs. Sir, nakagawa na pa kayo niyan. Well, just a suggestion though. This is what we did. This is what we did for a part of IMOS. Nung panahon pa po ni Sir Galileo Go as Assistant Superintendent po dito sa IMOS. So what we did is so initially created remediation platforms or sorry, remediation materials for grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Okay, on literacy. Hindi na namin natuloy kasi lumipat siya. I think that's a problem with palipat-lipat ng ASDS yung mga programa, hindi natutuloy. So, nagkaroon na po na ganun materials na there's already a material available for, say, students who struggle with a certain lesson, may remedial materials na po na pwedeng gamitin ng teacher. Ginawa po yon, na-design po yon kasi nga para hindi magdagdag sa trabaho ng teacher na nagka-handle ng regular blended learning modality, tas may nag-aaray sa problema sa school, sa blended learning, merong bata na dapat mag-remediate, so si teacher magpe-prepare, so magdo-double preparation na siya. So what the SDS did in the EMOS, that was, before, using, of course, EGRA. I think Sir Noel was there when I trained the division of EMOS to conduct using the materials of EGRA to conduct to specifically use the material to identify students who should qualify for remediation, especially for flex program. So the material should be ready para hindi ma-pressure si teacher. And then pipili lang siya doon sa materials na ready para kung anong appropriate na kailangan ng bata. Okay. So materials talaga. Any hybrid design, ang importante talaga, the materials should be ready. Yun lang po yun. Now, another one design is the labs, also known as the curriculum is delivered via a digital platform but in a consistent physical location. Students usually take traditional classes in this model as well. Ito po yung sa amin, sa Sisters of Mary, we use labs kasi we're using a bubble community program. Ibig sabihin po, ang mga estudyante namin nasa loob ng school lang. Pero aming mga teachers ay nasa labas, working from home. So our students, they are at school, they live in the school, and then ang aming mga classrooms are turned into lecture workshops or lecture laboratories. Medyo magastos lang kasi ang nangyari po is we installed, dapat po lahat ng classrooms po ay merong Wi-Fi, ginawa namin ay PLDT fiber pero mahina pa rin talagang connection. Plus, dapat meron po kaming smart TVs. So, nagawa po namin. Nagkaroon po ng smart TVs and so on and so forth. Now, the students were able to somehow appreciate. But some of the feedback of the full lab blended approach is that it becomes boring. Eventually, it becomes boring because they are not able to see who their teachers are. And then everything is on the television. So what we did with the hybrid of labs is that we requested some of the teachers to stay in the school. They have to undergo, of course, the IATF requirement that they need to be quarantined for 14 days and swab tests and all. So after all of this, yung mga single namin mga teachers, pumayag po, nagstay in sila school. So we now have 50% teachers working from home, and then we have 50% working, staying at school. So what we did is we combined a face-to-face interaction with the students of the teachers staying at school for the labs, and then 2 to 3 days would be for our teachers who are working from home via the online. This only is a good design if the students are all together in one place where COVID-19 is not rampant. Yan po ang ginagawa namin sa Sisters of Mary. Okay? We are using the labs kasi nga, stay in. 50% of our teachers are staying in the school, and then 100% of our sisters are staying in the school, and then 30% of our personnel are staying at school, and then 100% of our students are staying at school. Nakabubble talaga. All right? So this works. But I think this will not work for the public school system where all teachers go home and the students travel and all, and social distance cannot be observed. This won't work. No matter how hybrid you make of it, that won't work. Next would be self-blend, okay? Now, what happens here, the true blended approach, making it hybrid, is when the students choose to augment their traditional learning with online coursework. Meaning, ang hybrid po natin dito is that ito ang gagawin nila na ito yung grades, kunwari grade 7. Si bata ang nakaalam ano ang subject na kaya niya at anong subject na hindi niya kaya. That's the hybrid for self-blend. So, ang gagawin po dito ng bata, okay, mahina ako sa math, kailangan ko dito mag-enroll sa limited face-to-face interaction. So, ang bata ang nagde-decide kung ano ang modality would work for him or her. Siya ang amin. Kailan po, it works for those students who would admit their weaknesses and strengths. Now, meron bang ginawa ito dito sa Pilipinas? Alas, wala pong gumagamit pa ng design na ito na self-blend na ang school would offer all of those modalities, hybrid modalities, the labs, the rotation, the limited face-to-face, tas ang bata ang pipili. Medyo mahirap po kasi nga we have limited facilities, we have limited teachers, and all of those limitations would not necessitate the effectiveness of the implementation of self-blend, but in the United States being done. A great friend of mine, who's teaching in Maryland, they're doing self-blend. But it's working really well because it addresses the learning styles of the students and admitting and that the students are able to compensate for their individual weaknesses and strengths. It's really good though. Pero hindi natin kakayanin yan sa Pilipinas. And the sixth one and the last one would be the online driver. So the students complete an entire course through an online platform with possible teacher check-ins. All curriculum and teaching is delivered via digital platform and face-to-face meetings are scheduled or made available if necessary. All right? Pag sinabi po nating face-to-face meetings po na ito ay itong tawag po natin na pwedeng remote at saka pwede rin pong local. Pag sinabi natin remote, physical face-to-face. Pag sinabi natin remote face-to-face, online conferences pong tawag natin doon. What's good about online driver? This is a design being used by De La Salle University Dasmariñas. If those who are enrolled in the graduate school of De La Salle Dasmariñas, they are using an online driver blended hybrid approach. So what they do is that they combine the schedule into depending on the number of students, okay? Depending on the number of students in the class. What they do is that it's a combination of synchronous, then asynchronous, and then the students like us would choose anong mga araw gusto nyo mag-synchronous, anong araw nyo gusto. We only have say according to the according to the midterm. So kasi dalawa diba, midterm and then final term. Sa midterm po natin, we have about 8 sessions. Kunwari, sa 8 sessions na yan, we are allowed a maximum of 4 face-to-face interaction, all the rest via synchronous. It's the same number for the final term. 8, 4, maximum 4 face-to-face. So now we are allowed to choose which of those schedules should we want to have face-to-face. So that is an online driver. Hindi nagkikita-kita talaga physically, but it can be a hybrid by identifying those who would qualify for a face-to-face local meetings. Okay. What's the downside of this? The downside is that we are admitting and we are, assuming that students are independent learners. What worked for online driver and self-blend, it requires a lot of maturity level in our students, which I think eludes so much most of our students in the public school. I don't want to generalize, but it's most of our students, especially in the elementary level, cannot really subject or cannot subscribe to self-blend and online driver. Reason being is that our students are not that independent and still learning to be confident and independent learners. Okay, now Hybrid learning now, just to give a more concrete idea of it, is an educational approach where some individuals participate in person and some participate online. Instructors and facilitators teach remote and in-person learners at the same time using technology like video conferencing. Pwede pong nangyari po dito ay nagsasabay po ang session. So isang section po sila hinahati, yung isa nag-asynchronous, isang grupo ng estudyante ay nagfe-face-to-face, be it local face-to-face or remote face-to-face. That's hybrid. Ibig sabihin, yung isang section iba ilang blended design ang ginamit. Nag-MDL ka, tapos nagkaroon ka ng online at nag-face-to-face ka pa. That's what we call as hybrid. In one section, pinagsama-sama mo ang iba't ibang blended learning designs. Let's have an example. Okay. Let's have an example of a heterogeneous preschool or kindergarten and primary class. Let's say the consideration here is that our students are still, beginning literate and their literacy level is still low. Bakit po kailangan natin i-consider ang primarily literacy level in heterogeneous preschool and primary class? Because they're still beginning literates. They're still beginning readers. So we have to consider that fact. Next, primary learning support at home. Since our students are still learning, beginning readers, beginning listeners, beginning academic learners are still struggling to acclimatize to the demands of the different subject area, mas kailangan ng bata sa stage na to ng support at home. So, what we can do for the hybrid of this section, isang class po ito isang class. We will have two homogeneous group. So, sa isang section na heterogeneous po, ika-cluster po natin sila into two groups. We could have the first homogeneous group, or group 1, will be students who are already beginning readers. They are already novice readers. And then, they have high family support at home. Pag sinabi natin high family support at home, yung mga magulang sa bahay nila are also literate. Okay, research showed in Bicol that a lot of struggling readers at school, identified struggling readers at school, have parents who are also non-literate. And then they're not able to cope with the learning in school, because when they go back home and when they ask support from their parents, the parents cannot provide them with the support because they are also struggling readers, if not non-readers. In TUI, what happened in TUI, in this case, in the kinder and primary, most of the identified non-readers, doon po tayo papasok, pwede natin i-categorize sila non-readers kasi they cannot read yet in the language. Halimbawa, cannot read in mother tongue, cannot read in English, cannot read in Filipino, kasi nasa level pa sila ng beginning reading. Now, based on the survey, the teachers and the local government, with the help of the barangay officials, they were able to do survey that, with of course using the EGRA mother tongue for grade 1, EGRA mother tongue in Filipino for grade 2, and EGRA English for grade 3. This is the materials that they used. Binigyan ko na kayo ng kopya, so magagamit niyo po yun. So, alam na rin po ni Sir Noel paano gamitin yun, how to interpret that. Hindi ko lang alam kung nabigyan ko kayo ng mother tongue at saka ng Filipino, pero that's a good test kasi standardized na po siya at saka na norm. So, pwede po natin gamitin siya to test the literacy level, especially for preschool and primary class, as our basis for the hybrid design for this coming school year. What happened with this survey result is that hindi naman lahat, most of the students who were non-readers, who were still non-readers from preschool up to grade 3, were kids or learners belonging to families whose parents are also non-readers of the language. So yung mga bata daw na non-readers sa English ay hindi maturuan hindi bumibilis at natututong magbasa sa English dahil sa bahay, ang mga magulang din hindi marunong basa sa English. Pag marunong mag-Filipino, magbasa sa Filipino, kaya nangyayari, yung sound system ng Filipino na-impose sa English. Kaya ang bata lalong hindi natututo. Kasi nagkakaroon ng maling pagkaturo sa bahay ng sound system, sana ituturo na sound system ng English. Halimbawa, nagtataka ang mga bata, bakit daw, sabi ng titang magulang, bakit yung away sa English, 'di ba, away? Ang pagkabasa ng magulang sa bata ng magulang doon para sa ng magulang para sa anak niya nung awake word list. 'Di ba meron tayong basic sight words for grade 3 in English and grade 2. Ang away is a basic sight word in English in grade 2. Ang pagbabasa ng magulang na hindi naman reader sa English, ginamit niya ang kanyang reading skills sa Filipino o Tagalog or Filipino. Kaya ang basa niya away. So sa tingin mo, paano kayo pagkabasa naman ng bata? Away. Ano ang meaning sa bata ng away? Di nag-aaway. Tapos kung binasa ng bata yan on the limited face-to-face, ang bata, ang pagkakaintindi niya sa kwento in English na may na may word na away, is that may nag-aaway. Yung pala away. Malayo. Okay, that's another point. Another one is that some of the students were not able to really be able to understand the concepts in mathematics and science in grade 4, 5, 6 is because most of the parents of the students were dropped out or were not able to reach grade 4, 5, and 6. I'm talking about Bicol na talagang marami po mga dropouts sa school during their generation, I suppose. So walang support kasi hindi rin alam ng mga magulang kung ano ang laman ng module ng grade 4 math, grade 5 science. So anong support ng bata sa bahay? Literate nga si bata, marunong magbasa, pero hindi naman niya maintindihan ng content. Alright, so walang support sa bahay. So what we did in the heterogeneous classroom is that they consider these two considerations in creating a hybrid design for preschool or kindergarten to primary class. The literacy level of the students based on the results of the test of EGRA and EGMA. So you need to have get hold of the test of EGRA and EGMA. There are two languages of it. We have EGRA, EGMA in mother tongue, Filipino and English, because you need to identify because ang ating materialis po ay nakasulat sa two major languages. Three for grade 1 to grade 3. Mother tongue, Filipino and English. Ibig sabihin, ang bata, titignan natin kung kaya niya basahin ng mga materials na for MDL at saka ODL in these three languages. Alright? Sir, paano po yung mga grade 4, grade 5, grade 6 na may struggling po sa reading? Meron po tayong mga assessment materials na ginagamit po nun. Just write a letter to the regional office. I forgot the specific tests on it. We're still using PhilErie though for 4, 5, 6. Okay, that. Now, another design that we somehow considered for the intermediate class na po ito for grade 4, 5, and 6 is the clustering of our students in base of hindi na po ang consideration sa bahay. Okay? We did literacy level plus academic performance of learners. Bakit po kinonsider na lang ng teacher ang academic performance ng bata? Para makita ang basihan ng clustering or grouping ng mga teachers or ng school sa mga estudyante sa isang section is looking at academic performance of the students in the key stage 1 or in the primary grade level from grade 1 to grade 3. So yung mga estudyante na mga advanced readers are clustered, advanced readers with high academic performance in grade 1 to grade 3, they are in the homogeneous group 1. Bakit ba nauna ang homogeneous group 2? Nasa homogeneous group 2. While those students who are still struggling readers in grade 4, 5, 6, yet their academic performance is high, is considered to be another group. Dapat, tatlong grupo. And then the third group would be low literacy level, low academic performance. So talagang lahat low, nasa third cluster. But in TIWI, what they did, based on their review, dalawa lang ang grupong nagawa nila. Literacy, mataas ang literacy level at mataas ang academic performance, considered as one homogeneous group in one class, in that section. And then, pag mababa ang literacy level at mababa ang academic performance, nilagay nila sa cluster ng homogeneous group. But after explaining it to them, I said, paano kung mababa ang literacy performance ng bata or mataas ang literacy performance ng bata pero mataas ang kanyang academic performance, saan mo siya categorize? Kung ang categorization mo ng homogeneous group 1 for your hybrid design, homogeneous group 1 ay high literacy and high academic performance. So homogeneous 2 naman ay low literacy level and performance, low per academic performance level. Sa may lalagay ang bata na mataas sa literacy, mababa sa academic. Or mataas sa literacy, mababa sa academic. Di ba? So, kung nagbigay kayo ng indicators as to where indicators for clustering and clustering the students in a section based on what hybrid is appropriate for their needs, dapat kinukonsider po natin all combinations. Sabi kasi nila dito naman sa akin is that, sir, ito lang po kasing available na kakayanin ng mga teacher. O nga naman, hindi nakakayanin ng teacher kung ang mahawak ng section. Not to mention, ito pa ha, ang ating pong, especially for the grade 1 to grade 3, most of the schools in the public school is self-contained. Siya na ang tuturo ng lahat ng subjects. Paano kung gano'n ang design lahat? So, ang mangyayari, ilang preparation ang gagawin ni teacher? Patayan. Okay? Now, let's look at how preparation would go. So let's have what Department of Education has been implementing in the field. We have the RESM focused teaching for elementary, also known as reading, science, mathematics teaching. Okay, so we could have a hybrid design given the kind of considerations that we have, the literacy level and the academic, the literacy level, the academic performance, and the support at home. We can create 3 designs. So we can say now MDL. The MDL program for this section will be for all learners in that section. And then ODL would be for shifting, clustered, or group learners. Ibig sabihin, dapat sa ODL na po, ODL po, hindi lahat ng estudyante dapat papasok. Kundi yung estudyante po nang kailangan po ng remote face-to-face interaction. Dagdag po, need ng scaffolding. Sino po ang kailangan ng shifting, clustered, or group learners? Look at your consideration. Is it low literacy level? Is it low study habits? Is it low academic performance? Kayo po magde-decide na, not I. Okay? Only that in Tiwi Bicol, Albay Bicol, they decided that the considerations for hybrid learning designs for every section or for every school would be, for elementary, would be literacy level, academic performance of the students in the previous grade levels, and then home support. So, ang shifting niya dito sa clustered or group learners would be dependent on how many groups are created based on those qualifications. All right? Remember, we're treating this per section po ha. Sir, bakit hindi lang namin gawin per grade level? Hindi ko lang po alam kung anong repercussion nun kasi that's a violation of the implementing rules and regulations of. Kasi kung gagawin niyo po 'yon, maging homogeneous sectioning na po 'yon. Opo, maging homogeneous sectioning kung ang treatment niyo po ng sectioning na this section will be for MDL, mag-homogeneous kanyan. Then that would be a direct violation of the implementing rules and regulations of the K-12 curriculum, which requires all schools in the Philippines, both public and private schools, to implement heterogeneous classroom. I'm not sure though if it will be allowed, but in our school, I wrote a letter to the secretary allowing us to do homogeneous. Pero kasi sumulat ako ng letter at pinayagan po kami. Ang reason ko po ay ang hirap po gumawa ng disenyo na isang section, ang dami-daming needs. So parang si teacher na may hawak ng section na yon, 3 preparation ang gagawin niya kung hybrid po ang pinag-usapan natin. So in my school, that's the Sisters of Mary, we requested for a homogeneous sectioning para we're able to address same standards of the MLCs, but we're able to formulate a more appropriate design so that learning will take place. Diba? And then the other one is an MFFL. MFFL means Modified Face-to-Face Learning. Okay? So, 3 yung design na ginawa po natin. Hybrid na siya kasi pinagsama na natin yung different designs ng blended and distance education and then clustering the students within the section depending on their identified factors. Okay? So, MFL po natin would be struggling students. Yung mag-face-to-face po natin would be yung mga estudyante lang talaga na nangangailangan na dapat kasama si teacher. Bakit po si teacher? Dahil si teacher po ang nakaalam ng mga skills na yon. kung si mga magulang po ang i-train natin, kasi mga tao po namin ay para teachers ng sa Bicol, kung si mga magulang po ang i-train natin, maaaring hindi niya alam niya yung skill, but then not in connection to the standards set by the Department of Education or by our curriculum. Si teacher lang po ang nakakalam nun in terms of how these learning competencies behave as far as the identified learning outcomes and standards prescribed by the MELCs, or if you're using the K-12 curriculum still, then by the K-12 curriculum CGs. Wait lang, inom ako ha. I'm parched. Okay, now, wait lang. All right. Now, this is another heterogeneous. Let's go to high school. Senior high school. Sorry. High school lang muna kasi it could be the same design for junior high school and senior high school, but I'll tell you later on what modifications that we did. So we could come up here with 3 groups. Look at the differences of the sizes of the circles. So the considerations that we did, okay, for the high school hybrid piloting designs for TV is maturity. High school na kasi to, titingnan natin kung independent ba sila, disciplined ba sila, kasi yung pong konsiderasyon, kasi mas malalim at mas mahirap na yung mga pag-aaralan o laman ng mga modules, be it online or hard copy modules. So, medyo mas mahirap na yun. Kung yung bata ay hindi pa independent, pabanjing-banjing lang, magsasuffer po si teacher. Dahil baka late na mag-submit ang mga bata, binigyan ng consideration ng teacher palagi na, sige, bibigyan pa kita ng another deadline to submit, pero hindi ma-submit dahil there's a problem of maturity. Not a problem on mental capacity, perhaps. Maraming matatalino na tamad. So, that could be a problem. All right? Or, maraming matatalino na mayroong attitude problems naman. So, maturity is one of those considerations. Now, the problem is, sir, kung ginawa niyo to sa TUI at saka sa school ninyo, anong data ng basihan ninyo pag grouping ng mga bata? Gumamit po kami ng Memletics. This is what ang ginamit po namin ng Memletics is what we hired. Okay. It's just that I have friends in the Philippine Psychological Society of the Philippines. I have friends there. And then I asked them to, lend a little help to the poorest of the poor schools in Bicol and to our school for free. So they were the ones who gave us the profiling, the personality profiling. Kasi hindi pwede tayo magbigay ng personality test and maturity test or achievement test, psychological testing to our students, not being administered by a registered psychologist. Kahit pa psychometrician po, ang requirement lang po talaga, if you look at our implementing rules and regulations, all psychological tests must be administered by a registered psychologist. The psychometrician is not a registered psychologist. They are registered psychometricians. They're the ones who interpret they're the ones who how do you call this? Categorize. They're the ones who put together the data so that it will be easy for evaluation and interpretation. All right. So the point being is that on the maturity, I personally suggested that the maturity should be considered because in my experience, as a classroom teacher before in high school, marami talaga na importante sa high school talaga ang disiplina. Okay, discipline for me in high school, based on my experience, was a key role for the students to be able to survive high school. Discipline. Kasi kung may disiplina, kahit hindi matalino, mag-aaral palagi yan. So yun importante, maturity and study habits, they go together. So we enlisted the help of the psychologists from the Psychology Society of the Philippines and CEM, Center for Educational Measurement. I think you know that center. I used to work there. So sila po ang nag-assess and binigyan kami ng data. So all students who are mature, high maturity level, have high study habits, high literacy level, and high academic performance, they are grouped as homogeneous group 1. But based on our data, in our school, there's only about 10% of that population. That's why I represented it with a small circle, because they constitute only a small percentage of the population of a particular class. Not to mention almost of the population in the grade level. They constitute almost 8 to 10% only of the population. Ibig sabihin, 10% lang po talaga ang mga totoong natuto sa elementary. Nung natanggap po naming estudyante sa Sister Samaria. Kasi ang aming mga estudyante sa Sister Samaria ay galing sa public school, lahat ng public school in Luzon. So, the CEM and the Psychological Society of Philippines accepted my invitation kasi nga ang aming estudyante sa Sister Mary ay representative of graduates of public schools in Luzon, from Upper Luzon to Lower Luzon up to Bicol, up to South. Represented po yun. So they accepted it kasi it's a good. So makikita nyo na only 10%, 8 to 10% of the grade 7 entering our school are really with maturity, high study habits, high literacy level, and academic performance. Now, what's good thing about this is that there are students who have average maturity level, low study habits. Okay lang po yun kasi study habits pwedeng ituro eh. But the maturity level is, something that is a foundation in the lower grades. And then, instructional literacy level. Alam po natin na tatlo po ang classification po natin sa literacy test. We have independent, instructional, and frustration level. Again, ulitin ko po. Pag sinabi natin independent, ang bata ay beyond the grade level qualification. So, ibig sabihin ko, ang bata, nag-take siya ng test ng pang grade 6, tapos independent po siya, ibig sabihin ang kanyang literacy level is higher than those required for grade 6. Okay? Than the homogeneous one po sila. Now, for those who are in the homogeneous group 2, these are students who yielded instructional level results in their literacy test. Pag sinabi natin instructional, these are students who are tama lang ang kanilang literacy level for the grade level. Ibig sabihin, with the support of the teacher. Okay, that's why I call instructional level. They categorize as homogeneous classroom, plus they have just average academic performance. In our experience, okay, in our population for the schools, we have 4 schools. What we accept from the field, from the greater Luzon, is that mas marami sa mga estudyante naman, okay, that's what we call as that, about 60%, okay, 60% of the students who enter our school are not really high in maturity, not really high in study habits, just instruction level, literacy level, and then just okay academic performance. Ibig sabihin, nakapasok siya. So, ibig sabihin, one way or the other, maganda rin palang K-12 curriculum kasi mas maraming napuproduce, konti lang napuproduce ng mga excellent students, pero marami na yung napuproduce na estudyante na appropriate yung grade level. But, there is about 20%, okay, there's about 20 to 30% of the students who have low maturity level, low study habits, low literacy level, and low academic performance na group namin sa homogeneous group 3. Kasi mababa lahat. Ang tawag namin sa kanila ngayon ay remedial. Pero syempre hindi namin tinawag ng bata dito na remedial, we call them as star kids. Kasi that's STAR is the acronym for student at risk. So we call them, these are the STAR kids. So what we did with the homogeneous group, the homogeneous group 3 students have the same design as the homogeneous group 2 average learners, and design as the homogeneous group 1, the cream of the crop. Bakit po pinagsama-sama po namin? Dahil si homogeneous group po, dapat mas maraming exposure not only with the student, but with the learning experiences. So whatever the homogeneous group 1 has, and homogeneous group 2 has, the homogeneous group 3 must have that plus face-to-face interaction with the teacher. Now, the question is, Sir, anong resulta after 1 year na ginawa niyo po yan, na ginawa niyong classroom ng grade 3? After doing this, all the teachers and even the sisters were happy that the students identified in the homogeneous group 3 were able to become mainstream when they enter grade 8. So wala na kaming problema pagdating sa grade 8 kasi ang mga bata instructional na. So yung mga teacher namin na mag-handle sa grade 7, hindi na 3 groups, 2 groups na lang. Sana gawan ng hybrid ulit ng grade ng mga grade 8 teachers para ma-address ang homogeneous group 2 at homogeneous group 1 para mapunta sa group 1 para pagdating sa grade 9, isa na lang ang design para sa section na yon. Kaya lang again, The problem with that, kasi nag-heterogeneous nga kayo sa labas. Sa amin kasi nag-homogeneous kami. We're able to do this because we have homogeneity, which we sought permission from the central office. Mamamatay kasi mga teacher namin. Inappropriate is a program. So let's have an example of this. This is what we call as ESM focused teaching being implemented by the Department of Education Central Office. Most specifically for junior high school, ESMT is we call as um, English, Science, and Mathematics teaching. So the same design. We have MDL for all students, and we have ODL for shifting clustered of group of students, yung mga average na kailangan din mag face-to-face with the teacher, and then definitely MFFL or modified face-to-face learning, especially for struggling readers. So this is what I'm saying when we call hybrid blended learning approach or hybrid learning modalities. We profile the students. And when we profile the students, we provide appropriately for their group what works and doesn't work. And research showed struggling readers benefit more with face to face interaction. When I say face to face interaction, it is face to face local interaction. Ibig sabihin, nagkikita-kita sila. Hindi yung remote na face-to-face. Remote kasi na face-to-face, there's emotional detachment. This is what happened in TUI. The result of the struggling learners having established really good rapport with the teacher doing MFFL, limited MFFL or modified MFFL, was able to trust the teacher kasi nga bakit po sir kailangan mag-establish ng rapport ang mga struggling learners kasi ang mga struggling learners, they have low self-esteem, mababa ang paniniwala sa sarili, mababa ang self-concept. At hanggat hindi mo nababago ang kanilang paniniwala sa sarili, kahit gaano kagaling si teacher sa paggawa ng mga remedial materials, at hanggat hindi mo nakukuha ang trust ng bata, they will pretend to be listening to you, but their minds are closed. This is what we have found out, and I think those who are taking masters on language teaching, or those who are learning on taking curriculum instruction, one of the topmost reasons why struggling learners become even more struggling learners is because of their self-esteem and self-concept. And by that, we should be able to help them get out of who they think they are by establishing rapport and establishing that trust from the student to the teacher. Yun lang po talaga. That's why, kung pipili po tayo ng hybrid design for all our sections, dapat pipiliin po natin yung struggling readers for the limited face-to-face interactions because they benefit from that. Sarah, pwede po ba namin mabasa yung data, yung mga percentage niyo? I'm sorry, but I cannot kasi nga, in my contract for the Sisters of Mary and for ABC Plus, that's of course our ITF, it is data, awan ko, dati kasi nasishare ko yan, kaya lang may data privacy law ngayon. Ang daming problema sa data privacy kasi marami na mga impormasyon. Pag hindi pumayag yung tao, hindi talaga pwedeng i-share. I'm just a consultant. At the end of the day, it's still their output. Consultant lang po ang lulunod. All right. Now, the last question would be, do I still have enough time? Okay, I still have enough time. Kasi I would like to have more time for us to interact. Kasi may konti lang po akong little workshop for you, if it's okay for the group. I don't know if it can be done, but sana po meron lang po dyan na isa o dalawa nagagawa for 15-minute workshop po. Okay? Pero later ko po sasabihin. Last question. How do schools plan and prepare for hybrid learning delivery modes? Now, I would like to share with you that what we've been doing for the one in TV and in the Sisters of Mary is because we have been developing 5-year curriculum cycle. Pag sinabi natin 5-year curriculum cycle, we have research and appraisal. Ibig sabihin, we evaluated first the curriculum that we have been using prior to the implementation of the 5-year curriculum. Now, the implementation of the 5-year curriculum that we did is we started with 2014, and then 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, it ended last year before the pre-pandemic. So in the first curriculum cycle that we did, we focused more on the curriculum development. Okay, this is in connection with the Sisters of Mary and the other schools that I handle in Bicol. So anong ginawa po namin sa curriculum development? What we did is we developed all the materials, okay, the modules and the PowerPoint presentation and the audio files. Mga audio files na kailangan for the teachers to consider whether the students are remedial. Bakit sir may audio files kayo noon? Wala pa ng pandemic noon. It's because the audio file was originally created as part of the curriculum development for students who are struggling. The students who are struggling, they needed more support in whatever's homework or materials that they need. Hence, meron kayong audio files kami noon. Recording. Sir, paano ginagawa yung audio files? Yun po, that's another training kasi pag nag-recording po tayo ng audio files, papasok pong sinasabi natin na verbal elements, yung sinasabi natin na intonation elements na para makuha ang meaning ng word. Kinaya na sinabi ko kanina, magkakaiba po ang meaning pag sinabi po natin na no more rape from no more rape. Diba? So kung hanggat hindi natuturuan ang teacher ng tamang prosodic elements in delivering of recording of audio files for say lessons, baka maiba po ang pagkakarinig ng bata dahil gano'n ang pagkakabigas ng teacher o pagkaka-utter, may iba rin ang meaning ng bata. So defeated ang purpose po ng pag-audio files. So you need a thorough training. Ang ginagamit lang naman natin dito ay rhetorics po hindi journalistic. Kasi ang journalistic hindi ginagamitan ng emotive elements of the recording process. Pag sinabi natin emotive, yung may emosyon. Hala, ano nangyari sa pusa? Pag broadcasting yan, hindi mo pwedeng lagyan ng emosyon. Kasi dapat objective pa rin. You have to use objective voice. I think you know the broadcasting, voice elements there. So, di yan gagamitin sa audio files for what we call as a hybrid MDL. Next, after that, after the first year of creating the curriculum development, we had initial implementation that was in 2015 na po. In the 2015, we found out that there are some activities in the modules and in the PowerPoint presentation that needed modification based on the results of the TOS-based summative test and quarter assessment plus the exit tests. Di ba meron tayo, I'm not sure though, it's DepEd order number 43, I think, series of 2019 about the exit test. Nagawa na po kayo nun. Not to mention nga, I'm one of the consultants for the exit test in the national level. Ako po ang nag-design ng construct. So we have also the curriculum revisions and innovations. So after a year, nagkaroon kami ng curriculum revisions and innovations. So in short, 2019, kompleto ang mga schools, adapted schools namin sa Bicol at saka yung Sisters of Mary, kompleto po kami ng modules, kompleto po kami ng videos, ng power presentation. So it was easy for us to categorize these materials into hybrid type of design for these schools, depending on the profile of our students, because the materials were already there. It's easy for us to just modify. In short, it's easy to go hybrid when all the materials are there. To start with, the module should be there. What happened in the Department of Education of the public school, I would like to be honest with this, is that nagsimula na po ang ating distance learning, modular distance learning, wala pa po ang mga modules. And since the modules based on the mandate has to be contextualized, hindi na na-contextualize kasi wala nang time ang division or ang region or ang division to contextualize kasi late na nga ang pag-download ng material, ng learning materials. Not to mention that some of the materials, there are no learning modules downloaded to the field. So, nag-develop pa yung iba. Ayun po. So, in the struggle of hybrid, is that when there are no materials existing, it becomes easy when the materials are there. Sir, ang dami na pong mga video sa YouTube na po namin gamitin. We did that on the first 5 curriculum cycle. We used some of the videos that we got from Khan Academy with their permission, from YouTube, from TED Talk. Here's the catch. We did a qualitative research on this. It's funny though. nagkakaroon ang mga bata ng contrasts sa delivery ng isang speaker ng video ng kanyang language ay English as a first language while the teacher's use of the language is a second language and struggling at it. So some of the comments in our qualitative research said, uh, yung comments na negative sa video is that the video, the one speaking in the video, the speaker in the video is too fast in delivering their information. That's why it is difficult for us to understand. Kasi nga slang, hindi sanay ang bata sa ganong accent nung nagsasalita na ang English ay first language, especially for those from TED Talk and from Khan Academy. Now, for some students naman na magaling sa English, ang tingin nila ngayon baligtad. They are able to understand now and keep up with the lectures and the video, but they get disappointed when the teacher who's struggling in English or Filipino would be the ones now explaining the concept. So one way or the other, nagkakaroon po ng downside. So what we did with the video for the hybrid design of it is that we did recording of teachers. So we trained the teachers so that they will be recorded and editing. And this is what San Mateo Rizal is doing. Si Ma'am Sherilu yata ang nalipat doon from Cavite Province. Tama ba si Ma'am Sherilu? Oh, si Ma'am Sherilu yata sa division. What they did is they created an online television show to support kasi hindi kakayanin na ang mga teachers magkaroon ng mga recorded videos. So nagkaroon sila sa local, try to look at San Mateo Rizal. Especially for the lower grades, for the elementary, kasi elementary foundation, so mas marami dapat ang hybrid supports to the teachers. The more videos, there are more demand for videos. So anong ginawa po ng San Mateo under the leadership of Ma'am Sherlo? They did an online television show, parang Constel. Ginaya nila ang Constel. I think, hindi ko alam kung nabutan niyo po ang Constel, pero panahon po namin yung mga for English, meron din Constel for Science, may Constel for Mathematics, na meron po, but the Constel is more of for the teachers. But what Ma'am Sherlo did with the San Mateo group is that they designed a community reading program. Na ano lang po ako, medyo nalaman ko po na meron pala silang ganong programa, radio, tsaka parang online din using the Facebook streaming regularly to support the teachers' creation of video, is that I was asked to validate their program. Had they not contacted me to validate the program, I wouldn't know that the San Mateo already implemented a hybrid support to the MDL or modular distance learning of San Mateo. Okay? So 5-year curriculum cycle. With the 5 curriculum cycle kasi materials development is created. The problem with the implementation of the distance learning modalities for the Department of Education public school system is that you were all forced to create new modules because nilabas po yung MELCs. Oo, nag-MELCs po. Now, sa amin naman po, sa case namin doon sa Bicol, at saka sa case namin sa Sister sa Mary, at saka sa other schools in Cebu, we wrote a letter to the central office saying na ang materialis namin nasa K-12. Maubusan kami ng oras mag-hybrid or mag-prepare for blended or distance education at mag-hybrid kung magde-develop pa kami ng materials. Sir Dad said, okay, sige, kasi limited lang naman kayo. So, pinayagan kami. In my mind, I said, paano yung public school? Lahat bago. Kung ginamit na lang sana yung materials nila dati, it was converted and migrated to whatever hybrid or blended learning design that they opted to use. Sana, madali mag-hybrid. Anyway, I'm just saying that. So, these are the things that we went through. So I'm sharing with you now how we did the preparation for the hybrid learning modalities. First, of course, we did use the data from TOS-based summative quarter exit assessment tools, learning styles, and literacy tests. These were the basis. When we did the hybrid designs per section, across sections, by grade level, kinuha po namin ang resulta ng summative test para makita po namin asan sa mga lessons na to, ano ang mga learning modules na kailangan natin i-retain para sa next school year. hindi na natin babaguhin lahat. Para yung mga na-retain natin na learning materials na yan, i-convert natin into videos, i-convert natin into audio files. So, madali na lang mag-convert, mag-migrate dahil they yielded really good results among the students. And I hope you did that for the materials that you implemented for the school year 2020 and 2021. Ano yung mga nag-yield ng high results on the summative tests in quarter 1, quarter 2, because it's a feedback whether the module or that type of module is effective in the learning process. We did quarter assessment as well as basis for evaluating whether the whole program or design po namin is appropriate. And then we did an exit assessment tools. Sir, saan nyo kinuha ang exit? Are we just created a localized kasi hindi pa po nare-release ng central office exit tests? Kasi hinold yata yun kasi 2019 na-release ang DepEd order. Kaya lang by the time na pumasok ang school year ng 2021 at 2020-2021, nagka-pandemic po tayo. So hindi natuloy pa yung programa ng exit exam. So in my case, of course, being true to the order, this DepEd orders released by the central office, naggawa na kami ng local exit assessments. Okay? And then we did, again, as I've said, nagkaroon kami ng learning styles assessment with the help of the Psychological Society of the Philippines and the CEM or Center of Educational Measurement. And then, of course, literacy test. Madali po sa akin kasi nga that's my specialization too. So I have access to these materials for assessment. Anyway, so with all of this, we were able to identify which of those modules should be retained for this coming school year. So nagawa na po namin po this from May, this whole month of May, we were able to evaluate ano yung mga ginamit namin this 2020-21 sa quarter 1 at sa quarter 2 na talagang nag-yield na magandang resulta sa mga test results ng mga bata. And then, yun po ang aming i-convert into MDL, into ODL, at saka MFFL. Alam niyo na po yung ibig sabihin na MDL, that's Modified Distance Learning, yung modular, and then online, and so on and so forth. So, ngayon po, to be honest, ang ginagawa ngayon ng mga teachers namin is now they are now converting the modules into power presentation, and the power presentation will be converted into audio files. Audio files po, kasi nga lalagay po namin ng narration, tapos yung audio files, and then convert namin to video files where the teacher will be recorded explaining some of the concepts in the slides and embed that and convert it into MP4 so that it will be easy for ODL. So, in a sense, parang madali na po sa amin kasi nga may existing materials na kami dito sa nung 2020-2021. Pero yung mga materials po, especially for MAPE, doon kami nagkaroon ng problema sa MAPE kasi kahit sa central office, hindi nga nakapag-develop ng maayos na modules for MAPE. Doon kami nagkaroon ng development. So ngayon, we're still on developing really good modules for the hybrid learning designs that we are going to implement this coming 2021-2022. So phase 1, that's what we did. Alright, so ito po yung basihan namin ng description for the looking at whether okay yung materials o hindi. So, ginamit po namin ang descriptors ng DepEd Order number 8 series of 2015. So, according to, this is the overall grade description. Sir, saan nyo kinuha yung action to be taken? This action to be taken is with the consensus of the CEM, the Center for Educational Measurement, to categorize the action to be taken to the group of students if they categorize under this descriptors according to the description provided by us by the Department of Education, DepEd Order number 8 series of 2015. So 74% and below, according to DepEd Order number 8 series of 20, did not meet expectations. So ito yung description, ano dapat ang action taken? Remediation. So kung remediation ang bata say sa grade 4, at the end of grade 4, remediation siya. Dapat pagdating sa grade 5, ika-categorize siya sa grupo ng pang-remediation. Ibang hybrid po ang ibibigay sa kanya. So, dapat may resulta na po tayo. So, kung kayo po ngayon, nagagawin nyo pa yun, sir, wala po kayong mga literacy test. So, use your quarter assessments, use your final grade to categorize your students according to whatever categories they may fall under. So, you may use DepEd Order number 8 as basis for clustering students who would fall into whatever homogeneous groups they would belong in the section. So 74 and below did not meet expectations. Fairly satisfactory and satisfactory. Look at fairly satisfactory and satisfactory. You have close teacher supervision and minimal teacher or peer supervision. Ibig sabihin yung 75% up to 84% could be categorized as one cluster. Yung remediation, one cluster of students in your section, and then 75 to 84% would be the another cluster, homogeneous group for the section, could be instructional. Kayong bahala kung ano mga names nyo. Ang sabi ko nga, ang remediation students po namin, ang tawag namin STAR, tas ang tawag po namin sa sa mga instructional students, ang tawag namin sa kanila ay teachers, tas ang tawag po namin dito sa kanila sa 85, yung very satisfied to outstanding po namin, ang tawag po namin sa kanila ay mga helping brothers and helping sisters. Kasi ito sila, nakakatulong sila sa mga remediation to students namin. Kasi we found out that the outstanding students can explain clearly, better than the teacher, how they learn the concepts in the module to struggling students. So nagkakaroon po kami ng interaction via online of students who are fast learners, independent learners to the struggling learners. So ang categorization po namin, 74 remediation would be one group, one homogeneous group. Close teacher supervision and minimal teacher supervision is teacher supervision, one cluster po ulit. And then enhancement, isang clustering po ulit first, very satisfactory, outstanding, they constitute the 10% homogeneous cluster 1. Sir, pwede po bang 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Pwede naman pong 4 po na grupo po ang clustering ninyo. But in our case po, ang makakayanan lang po based on our manpower ay 3 clustering po. Beyond that, baka kailangan po namin pa ng maraming teachers or we are spreading our teachers' efforts too thinly to the point na, nag-identify nga tayo pero hindi naman na-monitor ng teacher kasi ang daming estudyante. If our goal really is ang inyong nakalagay sa inyong pong outcomes is magkaroon ng mas mataas na high academic performance ang bata for next school year, this is the best. Okay, this is the best basis, data-based approach to clustering students according to what type of hybrid learning should be delivered to them. Okay? Hindi ko kayo bibigyan ng kopya nito kasi meron naman kayong kopya ng DepEd Order number 8 series of 2015. Okay? A good example of how we interpreted this. So, in our Excel, ang mga estudyante, ang mga teacher namin po, pag in-encode ang grade, be it summative test, be it PT, or be it quarter assessment, ang lalabas po ay hindi lang ganito. Sorry po, wala pa dapat may percentage. Ang lalabas po ay ganito. This is individual ha. Lalabas sa individual na ang bata, 64, did not meet expectation, ano ang grupo niya dapat remediation. So, nalalaman po ng teacher, and the next quarter, kasi quarterly ang aming interpretation ng results. Pagdating sa second quarter, nababago po ulit ang aming hybrid. Bakit po? Baka meron pong nag-improve sa first quarter ng aming programa ng hybrid, baka meron nag-improve sa mga bata. Kaya pagdating sa second quarter, nare-recluster sila within the section na lang. Okay? Well, in your case, within the section, sabing kasi is across sections kasi homogeneous ang sectioning namin. So makikita po natin na yung aming hybrid for every quarter, yung population, the population or the students who would qualify to be in a homogeneous group 1, homogeneous group 2, homogeneous group 3. In your case, it could be within the section, they move depending on their performance as based on the Excel. In-embed lang po ito, pero hindi po ako naggawa IT po namin based on the matrix that I showed you a while ago. I'll just check again my time. Okay? Mag-alas 4 na. Anyway. And then we have sections too. So if we have individual feedback to the school, then we have also by section. So in most schools in the Philippines, ito lang lumalabas. So what we did para po magkaroon po ng feedback again sa teachers po namin every quarter para makikita po namin that there's restructuring of groupings per quarter, ito pong lumalabas. Section A did not meet expectations. Anong gagawin? You have to give remediation to them, but you have to specifically identify who are those needing remediation, and so on and so forth. Iyan. So in short, the way our assessment is, how do you call this, delivered and assessed and evaluated gives us feedback as to what action should be taken at what program to be taken. Pag ang bata dito sa mata ng remediation, our materials for remediation is available. Naka-available na po siya kasi yung teachers namin, our experience before is that even if we recommended to the teacher that they need to provide remediation to these particular students, hindi rin niya nabibigyan ng remediation kasi wala rin siyang time gumawa ng materials for remediation. So what we did is that our previous materials were converted into different types of levels of delivery. It can be instructional, independent, and remediation. Ang pinagkaiba lang naman kasi yun, it's the same content. Don't have a misnomer po. Ang pinagkaiba ng materyales ng instructional, ng independent, instructional, at saka remedial. Ang remedial kasi mas marami kang example, mas marami kang simple activities leading to a complex activity. Kaya medyo mas makapal ang remedial at mas detalyado. Pero ang instructional mo, mayroong konting independent, may konting research. Pero pagdating mo sa independent learners, almost outline lang po ang nandun, tapos meron ka lang mga additional sources of information na mga links that they can, because they are self-propelling. So doon lang po nag-iba. Same ang content, same ang standards, pero the way the materials are designed would differ. Alright? Disenyo lang naman po ng iba. Baka pagkaroon kayo ng misnomer na, ay, baka iba talaga yung iba talaga ang gagawin ng teacher. Naiba lang po talaga. Pacing po ang naiba po talaga. So dapat pabagal lang po talaga. The problem is, dahil detalyado nga ang remedial materials, especially for kung gagawin po mo siyang all designs, mag-MDL pa siya, mag-ODL pa siya, mag-MFF pa siya, patay si teacher kung hindi available ang materials na yan. Susuko po si teacher ng hybrid. Phase 2 that we did. Phase 2 that we did is that we map out expected learning outcomes from the lower grades to the higher grade levels in progression, in spiral progression. And you know that. But what we did specifically for phase 2 is that we integrated technology. Kung ang output ng bata and they are in the ODL, we converted the standards, the performance standards set by the MELCs into technology enhanced. Now, kung ang bata ay nasa ODL, we converted some of those activities, their outcomes for the quarter, for appropriate for ODL. So, kung ano po ang category ng mga bata per quarter, meron pa kaming specific modifications of the outcomes. Siyempre, same standard, pero I think simpler. I think the idea there is that we provide them with a simpler, doable, practical outcomes for those struggling students. Tapos, those who qualify for ODL, technology enhanced, I suppose. And then for the modular, I think they could be given a choice which one they would like to accomplish. Why? Matalino naman sila. They're already independent learners. So that's what we did. A good example would be, how do you call this? We had one for Araling Panlipunan, and Araling Panlipunan grade 10, quarter 1, we had livelihood program. Livelihood program. Ang ginawa ng ODL at saka ng homogeneous group 1 and homogeneous group 2, what they did is a livelihood education online education, online livelihood program for a particular community chosen. Hypothetical na lang kasi bubble nga kami. So what happened here is that we converted into, yung ordinary na project proposal into a television show in a sense. Nonetheless, same pa rin ang standard, makagawa ng livelihood program. Only that from traditional paper pencil, we elevate that to the level that they belong to in the hybrid design that we enroll them on. But for the students who are struggling, same pa rin ang standard, makapag-propose ng livelihood program, pero hindi na namin ginawa ng video. Bakit po? Kasi kung magagawa pa sila ng video, struggling pa sila sa content, baka mamumroblema na sila. So, written na lang po ang ginawa namin sa kanila. Same pa rin ang output. Same output, but different modalities. That's the demand for hybrid. If you have 2 to 3 homogeneous grouping in a class, the teacher will have to think of, or the school will have to come together to think of two to three possible appropriate learning outcomes that match the kind of design for one section. Remember, tinawag ko siyang hybrid kasi nga section ang tingin natin. Ang blended, ang isang section, isa lang ang design. Pag hybrid kasi, we categorize the population within the class into smaller groups according to the identified profile that we have set for the creation of the hybrid designs within a class or within a section. All right. Pasensya ka. I'm sorry po. I'm looking at my time because I'm requesting po sana that I leave around 4:30 because meron pa po akong ka-meeting. Kasi po magko-conduct po ako ng FGD at counseling training for all the teachers in our adapted schools in Bicol kasi may problema naman kami sa ESP implementation. So yung problema namin sa implementation naman, dahil modular siya, nawala yung counseling information perspective. So I'm providing the teachers with the skills. How is it FGD and counseling integrated in ODL and MDL? Okay, yun po. Kaya that's why I'm asking. Thank you very much for that though. All right. So for that, what we did is, ang ginamit po naming design ay SAMT. Okay, this is the design or the design that we created for the remodification, the improvement in perhaps of the learning outcomes set by the MELCs. So, ang ginawa namin, substitution, if ang mangyayari po, ang gawa ng bata ay, kung wari ay project proposal, ang ginawa ng bata on paper, ang gagawin niya ngayon ay i-convert lang yung PDF, then submit to the teacher online. So, ang tawag lang po natin doon ay substitution. While augmentation means, instead of the students reporting orally, in person, their project proposal or a livelihood project proposal, that what they're going to do now is they're going to record their project proposal and it will be saved on a flash drive perhaps or as an MP4 and then it's sent as a file to the teacher. Ano po ang pinagkaiba? Dito po wala po masyadong technological skills ang kailangan. Pero na kailangan ng bata. Pero pagdating sa augmentation, the student need to know how to record using perhaps cell phones. So with this being appointed sa aming ELOS po, sa aming expected learning outcomes, the school provided online trainings for all students who will have to convert their reports into recorded videos. So nagbigay po kami ng online training how to create recorded videos using cell phones. So, yun pong ginawa namin kasi sabi namin, paano magagawa ng bata ang requirement natin na gumawa ng video kung di naman natin sila bibigyan ng training? If not the students, pati yung parents using the cell phones. Kasi kung naglagay lang po tayo ng ganito sa ating curriculum map na binigyan natin sa mga magulang pero hindi naman natin na-train kung paano gagamitin, especially using the cell phones, is, what's being commonly used in the homes, the teachers will be frustrated. Overstay si teacher kasi the ones that they're expecting to be submitted are not the ones being really submitted to the teachers. So, training's there. Para wala pong reklamo na hindi ginawa ni teacher. Nagbigay po ng support si teacher. So, in augmentation, dapat kung meron ng gadget use, dapat pinibigyan ng bata ng orientation how to use the gadgets to fulfill the realization of the expected learning outcomes. Modification happens when collaborative efforts is being used. Now, collaborative effort, it's like you require students to put together different media to come up with an output. Let's go back to livelihood education. So livelihood education, ang gagawin ng mga bata ngayon is that they're going to create a video with a combination of PowerPoint presentation with videos and some textual input. So unlike sa augmentation, video lang gagawin, i-record lang nila. Pero pagdating sa modification, kailangan ang bata marunong gumamit ng PowerPoint, mag-embed ng narration, so it is now a merging of other technological skills. So that's why it's called modification. All the more that the students needed to be given training on this. All right? So, ang tanong po ulit, hanggang ang sang section na to, itong estudyante na to, could homogeneous one be able to uh, create learning outcomes up to modification or up to redefinition? Titingnan nyo kasi ang profile ng bata, kapasidad. So kung ang ating homogeneous group 3, which is who are the remedial students, siguro hanggang substitution na lang muna tayo, hanggang augmentation. Same standards, pero hanggang substitution lang po siguro muna tayo. Para nakafocus pa rin sila sa acquisition of the standards, but not the transitioning of the standards into tele. Tele means technology-enhanced learning environments or technology-enhanced outcomes. So, ang homogeneous group 2, which are the instructional level students, pwede siguro sila from augmentation up to modification. And then ang ating pong mga nasa homogeneous cluster 1, yung matatalino talaga, magaling talaga, tapos mature pa, tapos mga confident pa, could be from modification up to redefinition in terms of accomplishing of the outcomes. So, ibig sabihin ngayon, sir, ibig sabihin po nito, dahil ang aking section, may tatlong design, hybrid po ang ginamit ko, tapos tatlong klase ng outputs given the kind of standards for their outcomes. Tatlo po. Ibig sabihin po ba nun? Tatlong rubrics? Yes. Since we are implementing hybrid and the groups, our section is grouped into 2 or 3, and we have required our students to have separate appropriate outcomes depending on their category of their groups within the section, it is most appropriate that we provide them with a different level of difficulty of the outcomes. Hence, since there is now an element of difficulty and a modification of what they're able to accomplish or produce at the end of a learning episode or at the end of the quarter, it's only fitting that they will have different sets of performance rubrics or performance-based analytic rubrics. Sir, ang dami naman yung gagawin. And, well, sabi ko nga sa inyo, madali nga mag-hybrid kung all the materials are there. Kami po, madali na kami nag-hybrid kasi nandun na mga mayroon na kaming rubrics. Lahat ng rubrics nandoon. All the materials are there. So it's easy to transition to hybrid. So I have just a word of caution for you people out there. Do not go hybrid if your materials would not suffice to go for hybrid. Why? Masasayang efforts ng teacher, kawawa ang bata. Kawawa ang bata, kawawa si teacher. Pero if you will ask me, saang design, is it blended or hybrid that really addresses the specific needs of students? Syempre, hybrid. Kasi ang hybrid kasi, we consider the specific needs or the clustered needs of students within the section. Unlike for blended, we don't consider those. We just consider them as one section, as one class. Diba? Kung we're talking about differentiated learning, we're talking about differentiated learning, hybrid learning delivery modes are within the perspective and principles and tenets of differentiated learning or individualized learning. Hybrid talaga tayo. And it will solve most of our recurring problems in the Philippines. And by the way, I think the Department of Education is moving towards hybrid nga. Tama kayo. Nauna lang siguro kayo magbigay ng training, manghingi ng training on this. Hybrid talaga. So you still have enough time. Consolidate all your materials that you have used this school year ng 2020-2021. Tingnan niyo using the results of the test, what worked and didn't work. Then start migrating it to MDL, ODL, and for MFFL for hybrid. Okay? Hybrid po. But then again, meron pang question ulit. How do you profile your students? Kasi kahit anong hybrid designs meron kayong implement, the design should still be based on the profile of your students. Awag na po yan. Now, the phase 3 is about the creating of the learning materials. Okay? Now, the creating of the learning materials would be, hindi na po ako magtatagal po dito. Iba po kasi ang paggagawa ng materials for distance education for elementary and high school. Font size and font styles would also differ. Not to mention also the layout will also differ, and also what we call as graphical and illustration as opposed to textual percentage will be different. Now, the lower the grade levels are, the percentage of pictures and the percentage of pictures and text would be, we will have 70% pictures in the lower grades and 30% words. In the middle grades, that's for grades 4 to grade 6, we know, pag lower grades, that would be from grade 1 to grade 3. Paano po ang preschool? Ang preschool definitely is 90% pictures, 10% words. Okay? Hindi pa sila readers. They're still dependent on pictures. Pagdating sa grade 4 to grade 5, the percentage now of pictures with words would be now about 50% pictures, 50% words. By grade 7 to grade 10, we now have a percentage of 60 to 70% words to 30 to 40% pictures. By the time they reach senior high school, it becomes now like preschool, it will now become about 80 to 90% words to 10 to 20% pictures. So, yun lang po ang pinagkaiba sa creating learning materials. Dapat sila teacher o kung sino man nag-develop ng materials, they are aware of the percentage. Sir, bakit may ganong percentage? Because the younger the students are, the more mental pictures they need. Ang basihan ng pagkakaintindi ng bata na mga konsepto na dapat nilang matutunan sa mathematics, sa science, and all subject area in the lower grades is highly dependent on the pictures that they represent. If you're teaching students addition, the additional concepts must be represented by pictures. If you say 1 plus 1, that is abstract in the minds of the students. It has to be represented by 1 what? 1 chicken joy plus 1 chicken joy becomes 2 chicken joy. It has to be concretized with a picture. Huwag niyong sabihin na, ay, kailangan chicken joy talaga. Hindi naman. Just my sample though. The point there is that it has, isa pa, yung context. You have to look at the pictures, the selection of the pictures that is within the easy context of students. Kung ang Jollibee naman talaga yung konteksto, fine. But there's a rule. The materials being provided for in the lower grades must be sanitized. When I say sanitized, there must be no pictures showing negative behaviors that would subliminally be subliminally imbibed by our students. A good example would be junk foods have no place. Junk foods, ammunitions have no place in the elementary levels. Why? All positive and must be sanitized. All right? Pagdating sa high school, ando na po sinasabi na acceptance of deviant. Pero of course, no sexual innuendos, not to mention of course, the question of gender equality, the number of the number of female and male in a picture, and dami you consider. But I will not discuss this with you because creating the learning materials for different learning modalities would take us a lot of time. Siguro, request na lang po tayo next time ng other training. Sir, how do we create PowerPoint, video, audio files for ODL as one of the hybrid designs for a section of students who will go ODL? Ano po ang designs for modules po for those students who will fall under homogeneous category 1? Anong modules ang pwede sa kanila? Design ng modules. Sir, wala ba kayong training? I already had trainings in Manila. Ang Manila po ang nauna ng training on modules development for hybrid. Pero wala po isang training on hybrid. Anyway, so that would be phase 3. So sample po natin dyan. So we have heterogeneous pre and primary class. So homogeneous group 1 would definitely need audio files, would need online files. I represented with a picture with a Word file, and then videos plus modules. The book represent the modules. So the lower the grades are, the more materials needed in a hybrid learning modality. So kung module ka lang, ako para sa akin kasi, kung nagawa na po yung mga modules, madali lang kasi convert ang parts ng modules na into audio files. Pwede i-convert na ito in videos. Again, please, tingnan nyo po ang ginagawa ng San Mateo Rizal. Ang galing, I could say they're really, really innovative, I suppose. they acknowledge, ang nangyari kasi is, sorry for that, ang ginawa nila kasi, ang basihan nila paggawa ng hybrid MDL and hybrid ODL is that the literacy test results of students across grade levels. Lahat ng grade levels. So ang ginawa nila, lahat ng estudyante across grade levels, yung mga estudyante na non-readers from grade 4 to grade 6, ito yung programa dapat nila sa division. Ito namang non-readers ng junior high school, itong programa. So nagkaroon po ng support the division created a support to the teachers, to the schools, kasi nga they acknowledge that not all teachers in the schools within this division will be able to provide a hybrid type of delivery of learning materials, especially for remedial students, because they lack training, not to mention enough time to prepare materials to deliver really good effective remedial program. Ano bang ginawa nila? Inapproach nila, sorry po, pinili nila yung mga magagaling magagaling ng storyteller sa division. Pinili nila yung mga galing sa reading sa division, magagaling sa math. Yun ang ginawa nilang online radio, basta Facebook atang ginawa nila, Facebook Live atang ginamit nila. But please look at research po San Mateo Rizal. And not just San Mateo Rizal, research rin po yung division of Cagayan de Oro, City of Cagayan de Oro. Another one is the heterogeneous intermediate class. We have about, ang category po natin, literacy level, academic performance of learners. So we have two groups po tayo. Same materials po. Bakit po sir same materials? Heterogeneous po ito. At still they are grade 4 to grade 6. Okay? Ay, sorry, dapat, maaari pong ito wala na po silang ODL. So, yan. All right. And then we have, of course, heterogeneous heterogeneous high school. Where's the high school? Ayan po, ang sample po natin. Ayan. For the elementary, we have for MDL, all learners, they'll be using audio files and then the modules. For ODL, shifting clustered learners, the materials needed are the modules, definitely, kasi nga all of them should go through MDL. Pero on top of the MDL, meron po silang ODL. I mean, scheduled rotational ODL. So, ang kailangan doon, module, audio files, plus PowerPoint or videos. Pagdating sa MFL, talagang lahat ng materials kailangan. Modified face-to-face learning. Okay. For high school, would be the same though? The same design po like this? Nawala na po ba?
Opo, kaya po ako lumitaw bigla. Nawala na po yung natin.
Wait lang.
For
So,
your presentation.
Kailangan ko ulit mag-present. Ganito pa lang ang
Ang
StreamYard.
stream yan.
Wait lang ha, ganito pala siya. So, kailangan ko mag-reshare.
Yes, sir. Thank you po.
Thank you very much for reminding me, for pointing that out. Wait. How about this one? Kita na po, Sir Jeff?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Opo, nakashare na po ulit. Thank you po.
All right. Thank you very much. So let's just have an example for, say, intermediate or elementary. For those, again, sections po ang usapan po natin dito ha, kasi hindi kayo nag-homogeneous. Again, violation kasi yun. I don't know kung how the central office will be open to the idea that could we have for the implementation of the hybrid, mag-homogeneous sectionin muna tayo para ang hybrid designs po natin is within the school, not within the section. Kasi kung within the section po, teachers po ang ang mamong problema. Unlike kung mag-homogeneous tayo according to their identified profile, pwede po natin mag-collaborative teaching ng mga teachers per grade level. I mean, I don't know how you're going to go about this, but subjected yan ata siguro sa decision ng division. But I don't know because kasi nga siya that's a law. When I ask Attorney Estrada, sabi niya, I have to ask the permission of the secretary since it's of implementing rules and regulations of a Republic Act. So it has to be, the letter of permission must come from the secretary. So susumulat ako kay secretary. With the help, of course, with Sir Dance, dati nating regional director, very supportive to Cavite. So we have ODL. So shifts and shifting or rotational po ito of identified clustered groups, homogeneous groups in a section. So you will observe that there are more materials needed. Sa MDL, kasi alam po natin na there are already independent learners, siguro ang kailangan lang po natin modules and then audio files. And then pagdating sa ODL, students who are classified as homogeneous group 2, the students will need materials on modules, audio files, and then PowerPoint or videos as well, or online materials. For the MFL, kung anong materials meron sa MDL at saka ODL, kailangan nila lahat yun. Okay. Sa utak-utak niya siguro, ang hirap naman yan. In our case po, sabi ko nga sa inyo, hindi na kami nahirapan mag-convert at mag-modify at mag-migrate ng materials into all of these hybrid designs kasi nga po existing yung materials. Once the materials are there kasi, to be honest, it yielded really high results. Kasi yung hybrid kasi addresses the specific needs of students based on what you have profiled them as their weakness or weaknesses. Na-address sa hybrid. Sa blended kasi hindi eh. Kasi nga, ang trato mo sa estudyante, isang section sila. Kahit may problema yung isa, siguro you address them when the problem arises. Kailan when the problem arises, the quarter is already done. Or probably the whole year has already gone by. Wala nang nagawa. So, kawawa naman ang susunod na teacher, yung tatanggap ng mga estudyante na yon, mas augmented ang kanilang problems. But with the hybrid, I commend the central office by thinking that this time around, let's go for hybrid. That truly is within the perspective of individualized learning or differentiated learning. So another one example for heterogeneous classroom for materials, we have again, as I've said, our category format for profiling for the high school will do maturity, study habits, literacy level, and academic performance of learners. We were able to create 3 groups on this. The possible materials needed for this would be same as the elementary, only that perhaps the audio files would be optional. Depende na po sa language depende na po yan sa sinasabi po natin na resulta ng literacy. Kung meron pa rin may literacy, I think they still need audio files. Pero hindi na siya as great as a major requirement in the elementary. Kasi they are still learning how to read and how to learn in the language. And therefore, audio files are necessary. But for the high school, they are now becoming more of an optional. But I think PowerPoint presentation and modules, especially for online materials and for MDL and MFL, are really, really important. Now, if you ask me, sir, what is an appropriate PowerPoint and video presentation design for, say, hybrid learning deliveries? Wala na po akong time. As much as I would like to give you an orientation in that could be another session altogether. So far, hanggang dito na lang po muna ako. So I think I'm now ready for questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Brother Ricky
Ang dami,
Aguirre.
no? Sobra.
Opo. We will now entertain questions po. Please post your clarifications, your queries po in the chat box. No? We will try to address the clarifications and questions. We've learned a lot. Ang dami po naming natutunan, Sir Ricky, and we thank you for that. No? Particularly, profiling of our learners and the consideration
The hybrid.
about the learner's maturity, independence in terms of academic performance, study habits. Naalala ko tuloy yung masteral ko patungkol yung doctoral yung dissertation ko is about the study habits, the importance of
Diba?
study habits.
Ang
Yes
laki
po,
ng
sir.
implementation, no?
Yes po. Instructional support at home. Importante din, sir, yung paano paano kung sila mismo ang
Ay,
may problema sa
thank you very much
pagtuturo.
that you
Katulad
mentioned it.
ko.
I forgot to mention it na one of the identified factors in TV Bicol why the students are struggling readers is that the parents are struggling readers themselves. So ang ginawa ng division is they created an intergenerational literacy program. So habang ang mga anak nila nag-aaral na magbasa, pati mga magulang meron. Ngunit ang ginawa ng DepEd, ipinasa yung programa sa DSWD. So ang social worker ang nagbibigay ng programa pero in coordination with the division office. I so love, hindi ko alam kung paano ginawa. Siguro, hindi ko alam. It's probably because of the pandemic, people were more collaborative and became more open now to the realities that hindi kaya ng teacher lang to. Hindi kaya lang to ng DepEd. Kailangan tumulong
Tama.
po ito. If that can be done in TV, that's in Bicol ha, mountainous yun ha. Tagang nakapunta ko doon. Bakit po ako napunta sa Bicol? Kasi my lexicography project was in Bicol. I collected dying words in Bicol.
Hmm.
So
Talagang
napunta ako.
nandun, opo, parang yung African proverbs ngayon ay buhay na it takes a village to raise a child. Diba, sir,
Yes,
no?
that's right.
And most often than not, sabi and Keller, learners may forget the competencies we taught, but they will never forget or will not forget how we made them feel. No
That's
recovery
right.
strategy will be effective without equity at its heart. No? The power of the caring environment.
You said
Ayan,
it.
mukhang wala po yatang nagtatanong, sir, at well presented. Ang dami ko na pong mga adlib.
What I could say is that I think that your division, the division of Dasmariñas and Imus, you already have a copy of if you need instruments to yield the profile data that you needed. You already have a copy of the EGRA. I already gave you a copy of EGRA. Baka hindi kayo kasi nabigyan ng copy ng central office kasi by request po yon. So again, if you have a copy of that, you may use the EGRA because it's already been standardized. And the last time I checked with USAID, it has already been released to the Department of Education for public use. So wala na pong copyright infringement on that.
Nice. Opo, the USAID is very supportive po
Yes. O syempre,
pagdating
dapat
po
sila
sa mga
sumuporta. Kasi ang ating mga graduates, kinukuha nilang trabahador. Kung mababa ang literacy level ng ating graduates, sila rin po ang problema. So they really have to support us.
Yes, sir. And I guess, well explained, sabi po ni Matt is fun. Well explained po, sir. Thank you so much. And
Welcome.
hybrid is a good
Yes.
learning
Yeah.
modality.
I just had to be more realistic when we do hybrid kasi there are a lot to consider. Sa blended kasi, generalized ang consideration natin. Pagdating natin sa hybrid, we become more specific to the context and needs of our students. Hence, profiling is very, very important.
Yun, nabanggit nga ni Sir, no, we should learn to identify and to know our learners po. Ano po, talagang yung pagkilala sa kanila na medyo nalimitahan ngayon dahil nga po sa
Ah,
distance learning modality, ODL, or DL na system or a scheme po ng pag-deliver ng ating education. Alright. So it's more of the appreciation to our na nakasulat po sa YouTube and sa atin pong Facebook.ed account
thank you.
or
Yeah.
from Sir Jason Ernie. Ayan, siguro talaga, totoo naman ito, it's challenging. Talaga po,
Oh,
naiiba eh. Ako,
uy, wag kayo ha. Kung nagawa ng Cagayan de Oro, nagawa ng TV ng bundok po ng Albay, Dasmariñas, hello. Ang taas ng kayo po ay city division. So I have high hopes for Dasmariñas. You have easy access to experts. De La Salle University is just beside you.
and I would like to also read po, ito po yung comment ni Sir Francis Kenneth Hernandez. Meron po silang na-develop sa kanilang eskwelahan na radio based
Ooh,
instruction na open sources po. It's a support po for
there.
ODL and for MDL kasi nagkaroon po talaga ng pagkakataon, sir, na dahil sa quarantine classifications, the distribution and retrieval of modules are not allowed. Hindi po talaga po pwede. Kaya po,
Mm,
tamang-tama po yung development nitong radio based instruction. Hindi
hybrid na
lang
yan.
po Yes po, hindi lang po sa kanilang school nagamit kung hindi sa mga kalapit pong ah, pong paaralan. Sa cluster 6, yan, isa pa yung
Wow.
pinagmamalaki po nila yan. The
Uy,
89.5 North
pakinggan ko yan.
Star
Papakinggan
FM.
ko yan. Pakinggan ko. 89.5 Star FM.
Opo. And of course, our CIO were able to develop Daskalaman TV shows. Kung si Blue Rizal po ay merong mga tinatawag na Facebook um, televisions. For Dasma naman po, we have this partnership with the local cable Marinas, and it is dubbed as Daskalaman TV. Kaya
Wow.
lang nga po, din nakaka-access dahil nga sa mga limitations ng atin pong mga estudyante. But nevertheless, talaga pong napakarami po naming natutunan ngayon. Ma'am Rowena Hermoso, good afternoon. I think we have done that at high school before. That is when we have a lot of students in a classroom. From Ma'am Dens Carmelo naman po. Thank you very much for this new
Welcome.
learnings and enlightenment about the hybrid learning. And Thanksgivings for all your shared knowledge, sir. Hybrid learning po
Ako din.
talaga.
Hybrid talaga. Our direction, the educational system of the Philippines is moving towards hybrid. Papunta po tayo doon and dinadaan-daan lang po tayo sa ng central office. But kudos for the division that you already provided your teachers with a heads up of the hybrid learning modalities.
Alright. So mukhang wala na po, sir, gustong magtanong. It's more of appreciation of the sharings that we
Yes, thank
and
you.
the learnings that we have this afternoon po. Maraming salamat po, Sir
Welcome.
Aguirre.
Welcome.
At kahit na wala na tayong health break, ay talagang si
Oh my
Sir
goodness!
naka-ready yung
Nga pala.
kanyang water eh. But it's okay, sir.
Oh,
At
I forgot. I really
alam,
forgot. I forgot.
ako naman po ay ayokong masira yung inyo pong momentum sa pagde-deliver po ng na topic po para sa atin pong mga manonood. Okay, another appreciation. Thank you, sir. Ano pa ito? Salamat po for sharing this session to us.
An honor. It's always an honor.
I salute and admire the interventions you have mentioned by Ma'am Lucille Umali. Ayan.
Actually, yun naman talaga ang core ng learning eh. The core of teaching is not teaching those students who are easy to teach. But the real struggle is teaching students or students who need more intervention. Yun ang struggle talaga ng teacher eh. Makikita natin, ay madali matutunan to. Pero pag-identify lang tayo isa o dalawa na nag-struggle ng estudyante at nagawa natin, di ba mas mataas ang fulfillment? To be honest, kasi I was a remedial student, not a remedial student, a remedial teacher ako sa Santa Ana Elementary School. My first stint of teaching was in Santa Ana Elementary School and became a public school demo teacher for English for grade 3, grade 6, and then at that time, first year high school tawag. So, yan po, nasanay po ako sa remediation. And I have to admit that it requires more specialized skills. And the fulfillment it brings to the teacher once the identified struggling students are returned to mainstream. Ang sarap ng pakiramdam. Kahit isa lang po siya, para bang santo ka na.
O, sir, totoo po yan. At talagang kapag napabasa natin, lalo na yung nasa mga key stage 1, Diyos ko, grabe, sarap po ng fulfillment nun. At yun po yung isa sa mga hindi ko kaya gawin dahil ako po ay secondary teacher kaya I salute the key stage 1 team.
Ang swerte mo. ang malas ko kasi sa Maynila the division ng Manila at that time. At that time si Dr. Paraluman pa yung division superintendent. So ang malas sa akin kasi pinalipat-lipat nila ako. Pinagturo ako sa preschool hanggang high school.
Wow.
Di ba shifting kasi kami. In the morning, I teach in the elementary. Pagdating sa hapon, I was teaching in the high school level. So binugbog talaga nila ako. But I learned.
Opo. At napakarami din po naming natutunan sa inyong mga learnings ngayon. hapon. No? At paano ba namin mapaparami ang isang Brother Ricky Aguirre? Siguro ito is sa 824 na participants po natin both in YouTube and in
Wow.
DASMA. Sana po natutunan natin ay mailagay natin into action at ma-apply po natin sa mga susunod na school year. From Ma'am Jasmine Levita, thank you so much, sir. Well-delivered topic on hybrid learning. Mabuhay po kayo. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much po.
Welcome. Welcome.
All right, so the challenge is accepted by the president of the school heads in New City, Ma'am Jovelyn Valdez. Challenge accepted. Good vibes.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be just one text away. I've always been, at the disposal of the division of City Division of Dasmariñas. Lasal, malapit lang kami dyan sa Lasal. Dyan lang.
Oo nga po, sir. And before we end and we part, sir, we part this program, any parting words po sa atin pong mga manonood sa mga proficient and highly proficient teachers in the City Schools Division of Dasmariñas?
Okay. This is more of an inspiration for me based on my experience as a teacher for quite some time and handling teachers for almost more than 2 decades. Ay, Ma'am Zena Rose, kano ko yung kapianyuan ko. Shout out to her. Okay. One of the things that I realized is that it's not really important how intelligent a teacher is. What's important is her or his compassion towards the students. If the teacher's compassion and compassion towards the learning of our students, all the rest will fall into place. Everything will be at her or his disposal. So, sometimes kasi kung sino pang matalino teacher, siya pang masakit sa ulo, i-manage. Siya pa yung matigas ang ulo na, kahit alam niya, maraming magkasan. We call them as people who rationalize things because they can. But for teachers who have high compassion towards their students' learning, okay, they are the ones who find joy in all the stress that they encounter in the profession. Please, let's find more, develop more compassion towards our students. I know that, the question of salary is there. I've been there, and I'm still there, to be honest. I'm still a teacher. But to be honest, um, the love and the respect that when we see our students look at us back because we have taught them well is more enough treasure than money. I'm telling you this because I have reached an age. Siyempre, pag bata siguro pera-pera, duman tayo lahat ata siguro doon. Pera-pera tayo. Pero habang tumatagal at nakikita natin yung mga estudyante natin ng first year tayo nagturo, naalala, di ba? Bumabalik, may asawa na, sinasabi na, you inspired me to be who I am right now. When a student, just one student, returns to us and says, we are the person or the teacher was the pivotal, influential person for that student to become who he is right now and very successful at that. Kahit isang bata lang po, that's already a feedback that we have done something good in our life. Just one student, that's enough. Thank you very much. More compassion, more training for teachers, and let us all work together. It cannot be done by one student because teaching is not a one-man show or one-woman show. It has to be done, tama si sir, it takes a village to educate a child, and let us be part of the village, not out of the village and a problem of the village. Thank you very much. Yes, joy in teach. Yes.
Once again, thank you so much, Brother Ricky Aguirre. At talagang one text away lang naman si Sir. Makakasama na din sa atin siya sa mga susunod pa mga speaking engagement. Thank you so much, Sir. At this juncture, let us acknowledge the technical working team of this capacity building. Of course, headed by our officer in charge, Office of the Schools Division Superintendent, Sir Raimundo Cantonhos, Assistant School Superintendent, Ma'am Bernadette Luna, of course, our CID Chief, Dr. G. Cortez, our proponents of this activity, Sir Antonio Ina Jr., and Sir Alejo S. Filio Jr., Education Program Supervisor. Thank you for the HRD support of Dr. Vanessa Barcarze, Senior Education Program Specialist, and Sir Renantes, Education Program Specialist. Attendance, registration, and evaluation, Dr. Cesar Chester Relieve, Sir Vic Villador. For document, Fragilin Rafael, and Ma'am Rowena Cariaga, and Ma'am Katrija Fiel Makawile. For the food and refreshments, to Sir Ricky, Ma'am Tess Manicio, and Ma'am for the program, invitation, and certificate. Siguro virtual food muna, Sir Ricky. Sorry for that. Program invitation and certificates, Ma'am Leila, and of course, Ma'am Dory De Los Santos. For support and program material, Sir Carl Adaw, and Sir Julian Noel Anciado, Sir Joel Salazar. For the process observation, Sir Michael De Guzman, Dr. Jessie Layuga, and Dr. Jan Nepomuceno, and the members of the Technical Working Committee, Dr. Crisaldo Belas and Dr. Emily Belaño. Individually, we are one drop. Together, we are ocean. And as we close this day one program, let us once again acknowledge the presence of the Lord through a closing prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Father, as we want to give honor to you, thank you, Lord, for all the marvelous things you have done today. Thank you for your love that you have revealed to us, and for the love that we share together. May you bless everyone who took the time to gather here today, and let protection be on them throughout the rest of the week. Let the work done here be efficient, and let it all be for your glory. Bless each of us and keep us safe until we are able to gather together again. We pray for all the words that you have sown into our hearts this day. Watch over them, protect them, Lord. May they take root and produce wonderful things, things of beauty and great blessings to many. And as we leave this place now, Lord, thank you that you walk with us. May we be alert to your promptings and live in your endless love. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and glory, in this age and forevermore. Glory be to the Father, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world. Amen. We want to serve you better. Please accomplish our day one evaluation through the code or type in the link posted on the screen. Is the day one of the capacity building hybrid learning delivery for capacity building on learning delivery hybrid blended learning. See you once again tomorrow. Ito po ang ating evaluation link. Please, again, the number of hours to be reflected in the electronic certificate of participation is a system-based generated. So timing and evaluation are very important. The evaluation link will close at 5 o'clock p.m. at will close at 8 a.m. until tomorrow. Ayan, wow, napaka-generous naman sa time ng ating HRTD. The day is young and we still have a lots of tasks to perform. Pinaalala na naman natin ating portfolio at yung iba magluluto pa ng hapunan, karamihan sa atin. Wish you a great day ahead. See you again tomorrow.